Welcome to Whispers and Choco. This is how we do, and if you don't know, now you do. I'm Shawnee Whispers.
And I'm Mike Choco.
Together we are Mike and Sean in purebred loco. Oh no, we fucked that up. Okay.
Yeah.
And we might go loco.
And we might go loco.
And just in case you wonder what went wrong, or just in case you wonder what took long, we'll say that we're sorry, and this show is going.
This show is going
Straight to hell.
straight to
Wow.
That's beautiful. Look at that.
That
Right?
it's unbelievable.
Look at those pictures over there.
It's so clean. Like I'm an untrained musician. I'm not a trained musician, and it's so clean listening to that. It's
Right.
beautiful.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Mike and Sean Show. And we do know more than you. But when we don't, or if we
We're
don't,
gonna always say that we do.
yeah, that's just doesn't. But today, very special for me and for all of us, we have here the man, the myth, the legend, and for those that don't know, Sean Quinn, the fiddler.
Yay! Welcome.
I've been called worse.
Yeah, well, I held back a little bit.
Welcome to the show, Sean. It's a pleasure to have you here.
I've been waiting to come on here for a while now, and
Yeah.
I'm happy to be here.
Thank you
Met
very much.
Sean at the softball. We had nice conversations, and he's a nice man. He's a big guy.
Thank
I
you.
won't
Thank
mess
you very
around.
much.
Won't mess around. I don't mess around with Mike either. But,
Well, I have to correct you.
He's
I
good,
have
yeah.
to correct you. We actually met at Mike's wedding when you.
yes,
played,
we did.
When you played in the lobby at the hotel.
Oh, that's right.
Which
I did.
was
yeah,
amazing.
when my daughter got married.
That was
Yeah,
That's
that's
right,
a
to Mike.
yes.
Yes.
There was a great story, though.
You were in the
with
wedding
that.
party.
He
I was
in the
in the
party.
wedding
Forgot
party.
about
Yes,
that,
I
yeah.
was.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's hard to
Well, it's
miss.
good. No, believe me, it's good if I didn't leave that kind of impression because usually at weddings I leave the
They're like,
impression
oh.
that you don't really want.
No,
The guy that falls down and he's drunk and you drag him to his room.
But
Sean.
I just want to start off by saying you have an amazing name.
I have Sean. Yes,
Sean,
right.
it's a great
Indeed.
name.
Yes, actually, right. I was named after my two grandparents. My mother's father was John. Of course, Sean is Gaelic for John. He was John. He was from Monaghan in Ireland. And my other, he actually immigrated here. My mother's side, my father's side never come out. They stayed in Ireland. And he was Patrick, so I was Sean Patrick.
Very
Sean
good.
Patrick Quinn. So I had a strange beginning. My father and mother get married here. They all both came out from Ireland. My father from the north, my mother from the north, but in the Free State. There are 9 counties in Ulster. 6 of them are what they call now Northern Ireland. But he was from Northern Ireland, and he came out and he met my mom up in the Catskills, the Irish Catskills, East Durham.
Mm-hmm.
In 1944, he just got out of the Army during the Second War. He got out with a medical discharge. A wall fell on him, and he hurt his back and his arm and everything, and he was sent home. And but anyway, he was up playing music up there. And funny story about my mom. She was online as women do to the bathroom, the ladies' room, 7 or 8 deep. you know. And the other guys who were in the band with my dad were kind of looking at my father, and my father kept looking at this one blonde girl, you know. And he kept looking. He was playing like this, and he kept looking. And one guy, his buddy, turned to him. Jimmy turned to him, and he says, "Louis," he says, "to see that young girl there, you're going to marry her." Never saw her before, and she was online for the bathroom. And he ended up taking her home to Brooklyn, and they got married the following year, 1945.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an amazing story.
Where my sister was born, and then they decided they were moving back to Ireland, where my mother became pregnant with me. And at the very, very last minute, she got it into her head that she wanted to come back to New York to have this baby. And but they were in the north of Ireland. Now, the south of Ireland, I went back and forth to Ireland, was County Cork, which is in the very south. So he had to drive all the way down there, but he called up the steamship line, the Cunard line, and they had no place for the two of them. Everything was booked. This is big immigration after the Second War, 1947. And they drove down, and when he got down there, he had his brother in the car with him, and he had business in the car and everything. And he said they only had one berth in a room with 3 other young Irish girls. That mother was out to here, and she wasn't feeling well and everything. So anyway, when he got down there, the guy from Cunard says, "Mr. Quinn," he says, where's your bags?" And he says, "Well, what are you talking about?" He said, "Well, Dr. So-and-so just canceled with his wife. He's not on. I got a beautiful cabin up there." He says, "What can I do? I can't do anything." He says, "I'm stuck. I got my brother. How's he getting back?"
Right.
And this is not superhighway.
Right,
They
right.
still don't have superhighways. you
Right,
know?
right.
So my mother had to get on, and they went back to Northern Ireland. And my mother, it was a horrible journey. The Atlantic, and you get into that October, November business. I was born on November 13th of my birthday, but this is the last week of October. And it was 9 days of murder. She never got out of the berth. And the other 3 Irish girls were bringing them down soup and everything. And then my other aunt, another aunt from the other side of the family, picked her up on the dock. And she gave birth 2 weeks later.
Oh, man.
In Manhattan.
Wow.
And I'll tell you a funny story about that,
That must have
too.
been a crazy boat ride.
It was terrible. My father had just gotten back the day before. He didn't know when she was given. There was no cell phones. There was no, just ship to shore radio and stuff, So anyway, she brought me. Somebody got a doctor, a wacko doctor, whose name
The best wacko. The best doctors are wacko. So
I'm
Only the
embarrassed
best.
to tell you his name. It was Quinn. It was William Quinn. Now you're going to get a kick out of this. So they take me in to this Wickersham Hospital, which is long gone now. It was 65th Street and Park Avenue. So I was born into royalty on Park Avenue. So they take me
Look
in
at that.
there. So at 7:15 on the morning of the 13th, this guy shows up. He's not 3 sheets. He's not 4 sheets. He's 5.5 sheets to the wind. He couldn't even stand up. He flopped down on the floor someplace, my mother said. She's screaming in pain. So this Irish nurse, she was from the west of Ireland, came in and actually delivered me. So they had to wake him up or try to sign the birth certificate because the doctor has to sign it,
Oh, my
So
God.
that's how I came into the world. With the drunk didn't get his hands on me anyway.
well, he's
so
so close, but the fact there's an Irish nurse.
It was
that
an Irish
delivered-
nurse.
Yeah,
It was
right.
an Irish
It's
nurse.
like he's like.
I wonder what that signature looks like.
I know. I could never read it. I had to ask my
It's
mother.
like just looks like this. They got his hand and they.
That's
curved
where
it.
that's the story that started with the whole doctors cannot write. You
Yeah.
can't understand.
Yeah,
that
like
guy.
I started with
awful
this guy.
chicken
Started with
scratch.
that guy. Started
They
with
were
him.
like, "This is a great model. Let's use this, and
I
who
know.
cares what it is?"
Wow.
So when you dispute it,
I know.
well, that's great.
So
Like,
65th and Park, like nowadays, that you'd be $1 billion baby.
Exactly
Yeah.
right. Well, I didn't stay there anyway, but But this guy said, he says, I may not write, but I can drink. He says. I don't. My mother never went back to him or anything. She was.
well, that makes sense because she was like, "I want to live.
Yeah,
and I want
exactly
my kids
right.
to live."
Exactly.
So I'm not
It was-
going back
it
to
was
this
a-
guy.
He
was a
failed. He
crazy
failed the
time.
test.
Yeah.
So that was my beginning, and my father had purchased before he left. He owned some real estate stuff before the war, and he had a little apartment on 83rd Street in Jackson Heights, right off a couple of blocks off Northern Boulevard. And then he built a house in Flushing, the Flushing house.
So yeah, he lived right
He-
behind St. Andrews. He's a
I-
Flushing guy.
Yeah,
Oh,
Flushing
okay.
guy. Yeah, I didn't start in Flushing, but
I just sold a house there, like, not too far.
Yeah, it
from
was 157th Street, 3362.
I
Lock up. Yeah.
literally tomorrow I'm closing on a house on 163rd between 33rd and 35th.
Yeah, that's the same area.
Yeah.
You know, we call it the Bound Park area.
Yeah,
That's where we
Bound Park,
played.
yeah.
That's where we
Yeah.
grew up and played.
6 blocks
you know?
past Bound Park, yeah.
So
It's a
actually,
beautiful area.
I stayed there until I got married. I got married out of that house and stayed in Flushing for another 2.5 years over by Flushing Hospital.
It's a whole,
Beach Avenue.
Not
so-
Irish
closer
house
to us.
full.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Beach Avenue is right off where
Beach
we
Avenue,
were.
149th and Beach Avenue.
Oh,
That's
so
where
you were
it was.
around. You were
Did
2
he-
blocks from us.
Did
Three
he
blocks.
build a second, or was it a two? Was it two?
No, the
story?
house itself. He built.
He
He,
built
he
the
bought
whole
the
set.
plot. He bought the plot.
Oh.
The plot, yeah,
So what are you? You're one of 7, right?
7 kids. Yeah,
7 kids.
I'm the eldest boy.
How many musicians in the family?
7.
7.
All 7.
But they didn't stay with it. I was the only nut that stayed with it. But it's been good to me, Sean.
I
It's
mean,
been
not
good to
you're.
me,
I
yeah.
mean, you got some crazy accolades that we're going to talk
Well,
about.
yeah,
and
this-
that-
I
that's
mean,
not. You know.
This man is a string master.
I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking about brilliance in a sense because without knowing, I've done I've done my research. You
Yeah.
know, I've and a little bit, but like I said before, I'm not a trained musician, but I listen to it. I've always had an ear.
Yeah, well,
You
that's
know,
good, yeah.
Even
had
like
two
with
good-
well,
two
two,
ears,
two
two-
ears.
yeah.
Well, Sean's do. You know that,
yeah,
right?
yes.
Yes.
That's
I'm
fine.
anatomically
That's fine.
correct. I'm anatomically correct with the ears.
Yes.
But I do, for some reason, I was always good with picking the beats up and picking up the rhythms
Well,
and quick,
Yeah.
even with the DJing and certain even back then,
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
I would always be able to match certain beats and
Yeah.
rhythm.
Yeah.
But long story short, when I was listening to your stuff, it's as clean as like when it comes to like string or violin, any kind
Yeah.
of violin work.
Yeah.
It's as clean as you hear.
Yeah, well, thanks very much. I always wash my hands before I play.
That's
so
that's a very important thing to do, especially
I know,
these
you
days.
know.
You don't
Right,
want
right.
you don't
Now
wanna-
he's- now he's
you don't want to
quite
give your
clean
violin
twice.
COVID. I mean, that's a bad thing.
The violin's like,
It's got a hoarse
I
throat.
can't do this anymore, Sean.
But yeah, so it was your. I mean, the accomplishments. I guess we can go into those because it's pretty impressive.
Well, I started playing, speaking of the violin, that was the first instrument because my father played the fiddle. You call that fiddle music because it's non-classical. If you're classical, which I am too, I went to conservatory and everything later on, but I played all the concertos and I still teach classical, but I also teach Irish. And I'm also a guitar player, so I'll get into that a little later on. But he went out and he bought a little quarter-sized violin for me. I was 4 years old. And the first thing I did, I put it this way here like this. And he clipped me in the back of the head like that. And he said, "You little bollocks," he says, "put it in the other hand." So I had to switch it around, right-handed. I was
Okay.
left-handed.
Did it matter? Did it matter though?
Oh, God, it saved my career.
Really?
Yeah, saved my career.
So there are no lefty violinists?
You'd be...
You're lefty, but you play it
Yeah,
right-handed.
I'm-
Okay, so it's only right here.
It's not Jimi Hendrix and Paul McCartney.
Gotcha.
It's not that.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Gotcha.
You know, a
gotcha.
guitar standing up. You're in an orchestra, and you're going this way, and everybody else is going the
So
other way.
going back
Yeah.
to the difference between a violin and a fiddle. There's no physical difference between.
There's
the
no
violin?
physical difference.
Oh
No,
my
no.
God, that is
Yeah.
amazing. I just
Yeah.
learned something like fascinating, and I always wondered.
A
about
lot of
that.
people confuse that. I had when I was teaching high school, and a woman came into my office, and she said, "Mr. Quinn," she says, "we're in a big quandary here." I said, "What's going on?" She said, "My daughter just made the summer camp to learn how to play fiddle, but we don't have a fiddle." Meanwhile, she's the first violinist in my orchestra. So I did what you're doing. I started to laugh, and she just, I wasn't laughing at her. I was just laughing at the situation.
Right.
And I explained to her, a violinist plays Mozart, Beethoven, Bach, Tchaikovsky. A fiddle player plays fiddle tunes,
Right.
country music, bluegrass,
Yes.
Irish, Celtic music, Scottish Celtic music, whatever you want.
Devil
to do.
goes down to Georgia.
Devil was that's yeah. Charlie
Good
Daniels.
for you.
Charlie
There you go.
Daniels.
He's
Charlie
like,
Daniels
They played in
would-
every single bar
Every
over and
bar.
over and over.
Okay, you know.
And I have them.
Yeah, that's fiddle playing. So that's basically it's like someone who's a
I love it.
pianist and somebody who's a piano player.
Right, I get you.
Simple as that. Billy Joel's a piano player. Yeah, Van Cliburn was a pianist. That's the difference.
I
Of
understand.
that. You know, it's the same instrument. So
Wow.
she was very happy about it. She didn't have to go out and buy
Buy it.
something new.
Like,
It would have been great if you
like,
sent
yeah.
him down to the store.
Yeah,
didn't it?
I said, yeah.
I just ask for no, you need the fiddle.
Yes.
Just
Yes.
stay away from the
Yeah.
violins. She's like, oh.
Do I have to change the
Just-
string? No, don't
yeah,
change the
change-
string.
Well, we
So-
actually we
yeah,
used to
no.
have a prank that we ran on the kids in construction
Yeah.
with the chop saw. You know, they have the pull cord. You know,
Yeah,
you just
yeah.
got to turn it on. I used to make the kid hold it with the button
Yeah.
and run with the blade on the ground. I said, you got to give it a run and start.
Yeah.
And we would record these kids running up the sidewalks with it.
Yeah.
It was pretty funny, but I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry to get off track. That was-
No, that's all right. No, yeah. So anyway, so I grew up with it. I started when I was 4. I started taking classical lessons in the city. I learned all the Irish stuff from my dad, and I was around all these great Irish players. Took me to Ireland all these times. I've been back to Ireland about 25 or so times.
Wow.
I guess at later years touring with my group, but in the early years touring with the family group, the Quinn family.
Quinn family.
And we did a lot of TV work. It was with my brothers and sisters and my dad. A lot of TV work. The penultimate one was the Bell Telephone Hour, if you remember that. That was a big show. You guys might be too young for that.
we're way.
I remember.
Way-
I remember
way
the
too-
telethons, but not the
Yeah,
bell.
this-
Not the
No.
bell.
And the guy who was the head guy on the show that we did was Victor Borga, the guy who was a pianist. That guy,
Yes.
So we did that show. We did a lot of dozens of radio shows and TV shows.
Wow.
And the same thing in Ireland. We did a whole bunch of those things. And my brother Pat just found one, and he sent it back. It was 1965. That was that big two-month tour we did. That was the biggest tour we did in Ireland. It was 2 full months on the road.
Wow.
On the road in Ireland.
All
And
over
Ireland's
Ireland?
not that big.
The
All
north
over
and the
Ireland.
south?
Everywhere. We went everywhere, So
Wow.
we and it was the first time in my life in 1965. I just got out of high school, and I was 17, and this girl was sitting in the audience, and on the break, on the halftime, she found her way up there, and she asked me for my autograph. It was the first time in my life I had ever been asked
How
for
old
my
were you?
autograph.
How old
I
were
was
you?
17.
17.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, but she was 73, but it was okay.
waiting for more.
No, I'm kidding. She was about my age,
Yeah.
She was asking me, and then a couple more girls come up behind the curtain.
As soon as
That's-
the,
yeah.
that's
the waterfall,
awesome.
as soon as one
Yeah.
comes up, they're like, well, we
Yeah.
all have to get his autograph.
Yeah, but it made me feel good, that
Oh,
they
absolutely, I'm
what-
sure.
What they
Yeah.
ever did with it, if they ran out of Charmin or something, I don't know. But
Online
I
waiting.
don't know. Put it under. I don't know. But it was a great life in music. I mean, it was just fantastic.
And did you play in Ireland prior to did you have an established American career before you went to Ireland, or was it something that was
No, I
just
started in '55 in Ireland. I
Oh.
played my first concert of my life. I was
That was
7
your
years
solo?
old.
Solo you did?
Yeah,
that?
that little picture you saw before, I was standing in Ireland with my father just before we went on.
So that was
And-
your first one.
Yeah, that was my first concert.
That's
Oh,
that
wow.
black and
So
white
you,
picture
So
as
you
a child?
literally started. that.
I started that, and I won. I hate talking about this stuff, but championships, winning gold medals.
Well,
Here
I
we
mean-
go
You know,
again
yeah.
with the championships.
See,
I hate that, but
Yeah, but he's also new
that's
ears.
because you're
He's
that's
doing-
because you're modest. But
Well-
we need our audience. This is fascinating stuff.
Oh, well.
And when it comes to I think the whole purpose of our show when we said this was our direct connections of people. That have have done some serious stuff in their
Yeah.
life. And that,
Yeah.
it's really it's fascinating. 'Cause You
Yeah.
could be from Flushing, and you could be two. We have had
Yeah.
two guys sitting in that
right,
seat
who have done some
of-
amazing
of
things in music.
world, world
two different music.
historically, they're going to go down in history, which is, to have your name in the history books is something that's, should
well,
be very
it's,
proud.
it's been nice.
And I know it's
you
probably weird talking about it,
it's
but
weird
I want to
talking
hear more about it.
But every
I know you feel uncomfortable.
Keep going.
well, if you want to hear about, I mean, I competed up to 65 when I considered myself turning pro. That's when I first started, and I'll tell you a funny story about that too. But I won a number of All Ireland championships. That's the most prestigious thing in Ireland. I won it, I think 6 times.
That's amazing.
And and then over here, the North American champion, all this stuff, But anyway, so I went to my father one time, and the family was making gigs, and I used to see him getting paid. I was the oldest kid, the biggest guy. So I went over to him one time, and I was looking for a little pocket change, It's a few pounds.
I'm bringing
in the
you this.
pocket.
I'm bringing you this money.
A few shillings, anything, And by the way, 65. That's when I was 17. There was no age limit over there. We played in some pubs, or we'd end up in a pub or something. And I had my first pint. That was my first pint. And,
Wow.
17.
Yeah, I was 17. My father was on the other side of the room talking to somebody. So
What was it a pint of? Do you remember?
Guinness.
It was Guinness.
It was
Was it your
Guinness.
first?
Very good.
It was your first legal pint, but not your first.
Oh no! Well, I'm
Pint.
not talking about that. I went to high school in Brooklyn. Well, that says enough.
That's it. We got it. We
That says
understand.
enough.
I actually do make a pretty good Irish Guinness stew.
Oh, I bet you do. Yeah, that's the real stuff. That's good
I
stuff.
love cooking, but the aspect of you being such a Queens bred, Flushing born,
Yeah.
New York, huge New York sports guy.
I am, yeah.
Does it fascinate you and your family, the accolades that you were able to dominate in Ireland, and you're just a guy from Queens?
To be honest with you, Sean, I'm being perfectly honest with you. I never thought about it.
Because to me, that's amazing.
Never crossed my mind. It was just something I grew up with, and I was around all these big people. I did a big concert for the mayor of Dublin, and I just did one last year for the president of Ireland. I was selected to do that when he came out right before COVID, and I was selected one of two musicians to play that. And
But I don't
the
doubt
ambassador of Ireland also a couple of times.
if somebody's going to be
amazing.
selected to play for the president of Ireland, I think it's going to
Well,
be
yeah.
Sean Quinn Day.
Right.
Sean Quinn Day.
Sean Quinn Day. So it's officially Sean Quinn
So
Day
yeah,
today.
the president of Ireland shows up.
We
and
actually
you hear
forgot to do the date. It's Thursday, August 5th, Sean Quinn Day,
Sean
right.
Quinn Day.
2021.
Yeah, we found another day to be
There's
Sean
Sean
Quinn. There's Easter, there's New Year's. And
I'm so happy to be part of Sean,
Sean
Quinn
Quinn Day.
Finally, be
Oh,
So
part
now
of it.
you know how it goes. You raise your hand and you yell, "Today
is
Sean Quinn Day."
I love it. I love it. I absolutely love it.
But I'll finish that story. So
Yes.
I went to him. I had the gonads
Right, yeah.
to go up to him at this time. He was a tough guy, tough Irishman. He didn't take crap from anybody. Nobody, not his kids. It was like being in the army again.
Right, right.
It was that kind of thing. So I went up to him. I said, "Dad," I said, it was after one of the gigs in Ireland. It's right before we sailed back, and I said to my dad, I said, could you maybe give me a couple of pounds off the thing, And I was the star attraction of the whole thing,
They're not coming to see you.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So I got a little ego
Oh, I
going there,
love it.
and I went up to him, and this is about halfway through the tour, and I said, give me a few pounds,
They didn't ask you for an autograph, Dad. They asked me for it.
That's right.
Did you
I
not
should
see
have.
what
I
was
should have
going
told
on?
him that.
Did you not see this?
Yeah. But I went up to him and I said that. He says, that's fine. I'll give you a couple of pounds. He says, but when you get back, he says, you're still living at home. You're going to college now. I want you to pay your mother $50 a week. And whatever you eat, she's going to keep a tabulation of that. Plus, I want you to pay me back for all the lessons since you're 4 years old. I said, reconsidered. I said,
I don't need a couple bucks.
I don't
off
need a
that.
couple of bucks.
As he gives it to you, he's taking it back.
Yeah, he's taking it back.
Yeah.
Well, he shut my mouth real quick.
I'm sure
I
you
did.
were able to get a couple of pints for free for being
Oh,
such
well,
a
I
good
did.
for such a good
We used to
musician.
go back, some pub near where we played, some hall we played, and there'd be people. There was so many. I mean, they call it a lounge in Ireland. The front part of the bar is a regular bar, and then they have like wooden or glass doors, usually glass panels, and that's where the music happens at the back. They call it the lounge. A lot of seats around, big long tables and chairs, and I was just playing and just doing it. It was like 12 o'clock at night or whatever it was, and pints were coming, pints were coming, pints were coming, pints were coming. Everybody in the place was buying you a drink. That's how the Irish are,
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So my father.
I mean, it goes on in Irish American culture in the bar
Yes,
scene.
it does. Yes, it does.
It was part of growing up. I was a ball player with for Irish pubs at a young age.
Yeah.
So I grew up in that culture, and then when I got divorced, the guy who owned a bunch of Irish pubs in Queens offered me a bartending job.
Yeah.
So I was kind of really enamored in that whole, or I was entrenched in that whole, Irish American with buying everybody a drink, making sure that you show other bars the respect and go when you're a bartender, certain thing, and that stuff doesn't exist really much anymore. It was just a show of respect.
Yeah, because
it
in
was a
some
show of
places, like
respect,
what's traditional sounds old to people.
Yeah.
Right.
Like tradition sounds old to people.
Well,
so they
I
want
mean,
to build
listen,
a
progress
new
doesn't
tradition.
mean stomping on old tradition.
No,
Exactly
and
some
right.
people-
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, sometimes it happens.
But it's like a younger generation; they don't see tradition as something being.
No, it's just a fine line. I think
right,
people just get
it's-
carried away with it. That's
Yeah, I
kind of
know.
what
Even the commercials. You don't want to be like your parents. Well, I do want to be like my
right.
parents.
I mean, people.
Well, I'm
the-
okay not being like
The
my
funniest
parents.
thing is, I say,
know.
the funniest thing that I see on social
Be a
media.
mobster.
It kind of it's weird to me to read like people my generation,
Yeah.
my age group, complaining about the millennials, about them being soft and about them being whatever complaint they have necessarily for that.
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't understand how these kids got this way. And I'm like, Because of you.
Exactly.
It's your kids. Like
Yeah.
our generation, it's our children that are acting this way. So
Yeah.
obviously it was done by our generation.
Exactly right.
The parenting that we went, that we did.
Right, but you also wanted to do the opposite of what was
Well,
being done.
I think
you-
that's what
we
it was,
got, we
Mike.
got hit
Yeah.
for everything.
Well, that's my
Yeah.
point. I think that
You didn't
we
wanna
went
do that
we
to
went
them.
a hard left compared to what, and I don't mean liberalism. I mean just a hard left.
Oh, yeah,
like-
we're not talking about
No.
politics.
I'm talking about we went the opposite way of what our parenting was with our my grandpa, like my grandfather. Like it was stern hand, like you said.
Yeah,
what your
exactly.
dad was
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
That style of parenting would not even go nowhere near, today's standards. But
Absolutely
No, no.
not.
But-
Because somebody would see that and be like, no,
there were
you can't
people
do
in
that.
our generation that completely made that opposite way,
don't
and,
do it.
and it turned kids, kind of really.
It was rebellion, teenage rebellion.
it was. Just doing the
yeah,
opposite
natural.
thing,
Yeah.
and then raising kids the way you want them to raise.
Yeah, rebel
like your
cause,
friends instead of your
Yeah,
children.
exactly.
And
you
you
know?
I think for some people, they think that like, you know what, I'm going to do it differently and I'm going to do it right. And it's going to be, I'm not going to be, and then you grow up and like, I don't want to hit my kid. I really don't.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to smack him around.
You just-
and then there's some people that like, no, I'm going to.
Listen,
I'm going
They
to-
try to go completely to the other
Right.
side.
I mean, look,
Yeah.
not all, but some people used to smoke in the car with their kids with
Yeah,
the
of
windows
course.
rolled up.
Yeah,
Same
yeah,
bedroom.
of course.
So obviously,
Things change.
Things change
Things
for the good,
change.
for the
Yeah.
better in some
Yeah.
circumstances.
Some people some people take a long time to change. Some people get it. What I used to say. Some people
Refuse.
get it right away.
right.
Some people get it after a struggle, and some people never get it.
They just won't.
and there's a lot of those people.
100%.
Yeah, there's a lot of
It's
those guys
yeah.
walking
No,
around.
there are.
Yeah.
They're all over. They're everywhere.
Yeah,
like
they
we-
are
we see them
everywhere.
everywhere.
Yeah,
All shapes and sizes too.
yeah.
Well, one of the, I forgot which part, the first party that I went to see you play, I think, other than in your house, was the Hall of Fame that you were inducted into.
Yeah.
And it was a really cool experience to see that.
So this
And
is
I was
the
like-
Irish American
Yeah,
Hall of Fame.
so-
No,
Irish
no,
American.
Irish
Irish music. I'm
Irish
sorry.
music.
Irish music Hall of Fame.
So it was
Yeah.
like I got into, so it wasn't like a gradual introduction to the legend of Sean Quinn.
Yeah.
It was like, here, this is who I am. I'm a legend. Thanks for showing up.
Yeah.
And it was like immediately. It
That's
was like,
awesome.
and you put him in there.
I
and it
never
was-
said those words.
you know what?
He's like, yeah.
I love that you did that.
Yeah. He
So-
has it on. He has it on a.
Because I would do that.
He has
If
it on
some
a
dude came into
scroll.
my house,
He has it on a scroll for new people.
if some dude came into my house wanting to marry my daughter,
Yeah.
Well, that
I
wasn't
am gonna
confirmed
make-
yet,
I
but
am
like-
gonna. Well, whatever. You date my daughter. It's
Yeah.
that's the possibility.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make it damn clear that I got the big penis on campus over here. You're the second, and I don't care if it's And I'm metaphorical, not
fact-
physically.
the fact
That's
that
other words I never use.
Well, more words you would never use,
Yeah.
but again, we're different.
he just holds his violin up in the air like this. and
But
that's
this
the
is my
equivalent-
castle.
This is
that
the
you're
equivalent
in
of
my-
showing you.
Better
this is
said,
me.
you're in my castle.
We got a
You're gonna
caller.
follow. So I'm
Uh-oh.
just gonna let you know how much of a master I am,
Yeah.
buddy. And that's great because when you
Hey.
are a master, you should tell people you are a master.
Hello.
Hello,
Hello, welcome. Who is this?
my name is Don Burke. I'm calling from Florida.
Oh, Donnie boy. Hello, Donnie.
How are you, Donnie?
I'm doing good. How are you?
My brother-in-law and a former student too.
Oh, hello,
Yeah.
welcome on the
Yeah.
show.
Thanks for calling, Donnie.
You're welcome, Mike. I saw you. I saw two of you that I recognize. The other one I don't recognize. So I figured I'd call in.
Yes.
There
good,
you
good
go.
man. Good
I'm
man.
I'm another Sean. I'm just
Yes.
I'm a way less talented Sean, but it's we got
Yeah,
the,
but he's an Irishman
got
too.
the same name. I'm an Irishman, so it's the same name.
Yeah, you fit right in. You're fine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just a drink.
Let me
Sit back.
tell you, when we used to have to go to his house before we came in, we'd have to say, Sean, he won all these accolades.
Yeah.
So
I did not.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He doesn't. He's so humble. But just remember, all these awards, they're mine.
Yeah.
Are all the awards like in the foyer in the beginning of that when you walk in
No,
you
they're
can see
not.
like 37 awards in your face. Welcome to my house, guys.
No.
I know. And on top of it, I was a student of his too.
Yeah.
Oh wow! What kind of a teacher was he?
Can we change the subject?
Thanks, Donnie. Love you, baby.
Yeah.
He's still he's still family.
Yeah.
No, on a serious note, he was a great teacher. He was a great teacher. He really was.
That's
Thank you.
awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So,
And Donnie was a dancer, Irish dancer.
Yeah.
Oh, very good. Cool.
Yeah.
I actually have a couple of cousins who are Irish dancers for a very long time, and they actually, if I'm not mistaken, competed at a pretty high level. They moved to Connecticut. It's my cousin's
Well, they were.
daughters.
I mean, also, and your mama,
mama,
Kathy.
yeah.
Yeah, she's a
Ten time North American champion.
See how many
Oh,
awards
wow.
are? You
Yeah.
can't get by the awards.
Oh, so
and
like
that.
this is a house of like
Well, yeah.
champion.
In fact, that's how we.
Le champion.
I'm so glad you guys didn't tell me this when I visited your house because I would have probably turned around and left.
Donnie, you still there? Donnie, you still on?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I'm
So,
here.
so how long did you dance?
I started it when I was about 4 until I was about 17 or 18.
Very
What-
good.
Oh,
He was a champion too, Donnie,
yeah, it's in the DNA. And then I showed up.
and
And,
a great ball
threw a wrench in everything.
and a great ball player. It's a great ball player.
And
He
then-
hung up. Oh, he's gone.
And then all of a sudden,
I played for a lot of clubs myself over the years.
He did.
and then Donnie, all of a sudden, Mike the actor shows up with all his accolades,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
0. Got another caller?
So
Hey, we got one. Donnie, hang on. We got one call calling over on top of you.
Carl, I'm going to take off. I'll let you go.
You sure?
Thanks,
All right.
Donnie.
Thanks, Donnie.
thanks for the
Thanks,
call,
Donnie.
buddy.
No problem. I look forward to seeing you guys when I'm up in New York. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Beautiful.
Take care. Oh, they hung up.
All right, we missed that
Figured
one.
it was too quick.
Yeah, so you
Well,
know what I'm walking into.
Season two, goals for season 2 is upgrading the phone system.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you something, Sean. I know that that Mike knows this, but the fellow who just called, my brother-in-law, my sister's brother, there was only 2 of them. His father was in the Navy during the Second War. Was a hero. Shot down kamikazes. He was on the Missouri in the Battle of Okinawa and the whole place, the whole thing. But he was also a ball player. Played service ball.
Hang on,
and
caller.
When he
Finish.
got on, he went to Double-A ball for the Yankees.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
he did. Yeah.
Holy crap. That's okay. I mean, there's like talent oozing through the veins of this family.
Yeah, again, then I show up.
I think we have
All right,
somebody on the
caller.
line. All
Yeah,
right, who do we
let's-
have, caller?
Hi, this is Tara calling from Sean Quinn Enterprises.
So I guess you run the books, right?
Yeah.
I just gather you're the one who.
Make sure, everything's signed and dotted and getting his cut and getting my cut.
Yeah, cuts.
Oh yeah,
Cuts.
I'm sure Mike always gives you your cut.
Yep.
If he cooks dinner once a week, that's your cut.
It was like It was like me asking my father for money. It was got the same result.
Yeah,
exactly.
pretty much.
Yeah, Tara, you know what your cut is? Your cut is not having to drive him somewhere next week.
That's right. Yeah.
No, I was talking about my dad.
Oh,
Get a
okay.
cut from- not
All right,
from me.
Sorry. I have you know me. I got to go right after Mike. I'm
Yeah.
the king of insults.
My
Anyway.
see.
Tara was at the concert on Monday night. She was there.
Yeah, nice. How was that, Tara? I mean, I'm sure you've seen your dad perform 1,000 times.
Eisenhower Park Irish Night.
Yeah.
Every summer, it's wonderful. Let me tell you something though, that as wonderful as I think my dad is and the most amazing musician, my own teacher for many years and still is. When I was a kid in high school, middle school, my dad would come pick me up. He'd come rolling up in his Honda Accord with the windows down and Irish music blasting. Blasting.
Had a CD player at that time.
Run, dive into the car, and I couldn't turn it down fast enough. I didn't want anybody to hear because I would get embarrassed that other people, would think the music was weird or whatever, and only to come find out later as an adult that everyone's like, I love Irish music. That's the best music. It's
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
What did I know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm as American as they like, peanut butter and jelly, but I always loved Irish music.
A good man. Good man.
Always
Yeah.
loved it.
Yeah.
Well, because it's meant to bring people together.
Yeah,
you
but
know,
it's-
when
It's
it's
happiness. It's happiness.
It is. It's-
dancing.
it
even
is.
when it's
Yeah.
sad.
If you-
Even when it's sad, it's
It's
happiness.
happy.
If you could put happiness into a music, it's definitely
Yeah,
Irish.
yeah.
And I love that. A lot of country was derived from Irish music, and
Yeah, a
and
lot of
country
fiddle
is
playing, yeah.
country is very bluegrass and all that stuff is very uppity, happy,
All
even when it's
based
sad.
on Irish fiddling and
Yeah.
some Scottish fiddling.
Right.
Yeah.
And you could see the connection, all the
'Cause
cowboys
they
and
Yeah.
rode when they were working on those trains,
On the
all the
road,
going
yeah.
all the way
Yeah.
out there. They found
Singing the
places
songs,
to
yeah.
live
Yeah.
instead of coming back to New York.
Yeah,
absolutely.
and from California.
Yeah. Absolutely.
got a rich
Thanks,
history.
Tara, thanks for that comment. I appreciate it.
Love ya.
Love you too.
Tara, love you.
my dad.
I saw Tara the other day at the.
She just said, "I'm not just talking to my dad."
just my dad. Hate you guys. Love
Yeah.
dad. Hate the rest of you.
Yeah.
I saw Tara at.
Nice.
just my dad. I saw her at softball. It was great to see her. And she came to watch a softball with a
Yeah.
book. She had a
That's
book.
good. That was
Yeah.
good.
Oh, she does. Every softball
Mike,
game.
I'm here to support you, Mike.
Every softball game, she has a book.
I'm
It's
gonna
okay.
read a book while you play.
It's okay.
No, it's fun, but we so I was pretty miserable. I'm sure. I'm very glad you didn't come to softball.
Yeah, this one was a bad weekend.
Was it a bad week?
Yeah.
because we had them.
We
beat.
imploded.
We actually had them beat, and
We
we
imploded. We
And
imploded.
it was an internal thing, and
Yeah.
I can't play.
And it
with
was
that.
so much.
Well, listen,
chaos.
the day I did go, which was Father's Day, I had a great time with Mike and Tara and your mama.
Your mom,
Four of us.
your
Your
mama
mama-
had a good time.
your
We got
mama was
another
there?
caller here.
Okay,
Your
caller. Who do we have on the line?
Hello.
Hello, caller.
Hi, it's your mama.
They're just calling up. Hey, yo, mama.
Yes. Hello, yo, mama. I'm hearing this story and absolutely loving this.
Yeah.
That's the greatest story ever, yo, mama.
Yeah,
Mike,
well,
please
so,
tell that story.
All right, so when it wasn't when I first met, it was somewhere. It was like a few visits in there. She's the woman we're talking to is Kathleen Quinn, Sean Quinn's wife, my mother-in-law. So she said, "Don't call me Miss Quinn. That's my mother-in-law. Don't call me Kathleen. That's my sister-in-law."
Yeah.
And so I said, just like this. Well, how about your mama?
Which is very Celtic in nature.
Right. Very Celtic. Because when you're looking for her and you ask someone.
It's what you call Black Irish.
Yeah. The Black Irish. I'm looking for your mama.
I love
And
it.
so then from that moment on, it sticks. Like they have aunts and everyone, and they try to give each other cool nicknames.
Yeah.
But when they found out that your mama is your mama,
Nicknames with great stories are
They are
the
like-
absolute best.
they now call her. They'll say, "Oh, your mama's waiting for
That's
you," or "Your
amazing.
mama's looking for you."
That's amazing.
Because I know it's not my mom. It's your
Wow,
mama.
That's a great story.
Thanks for calling, your mama.
So what do we have any interesting stories that you can share about being the wife of such a legendary
Legend.
And obviously you have your own personal dancing accolades to brag about.
Well,
so it's
she
like
certainly does, but she can. You want to tell the story of how we got together, Kathy? You want me to do it? You do it. I know it's a painful memory for you, but
it's like, oh
It
man,
hurts to go back.
gonna make me relive that day again.
well, anyway, she was a champion. I had played many times for Kathy, and over the years, I always had.
Oh, okay.
We lost her.
That's
We lost
okay.
her. I always had my eye on her, to be quite honest with you. Even when she was, there's 5 years apart. She's 5 years older than I am. Are you believing that?
No.
No, I'm 5 years older than her.
I'm just not gonna stop you.
You're such a legend. I will not say no.
when I was 20, she was 15, and she was hanging around with my sister Kathleen, and they were in the same dancing troupe which I had played for many times. So, but in '73, the dancing teacher approached me to do this concert tour and the competition at the Mansion House in Dublin and the tour, and he approached me, could I do it? And I was just in between gigs where I was playing. I'll tell you the story where I was going next, which was a huge turn in my career. But I said I would go, and it was I think 6 or 7 days. It was short tour. So I said I'd go. So and she was dating somebody else. I had another girlfriend. I had a different girlfriend, and so we went
He
to the
said,
rehearsal.
I have another girlfriend.
Well, I'm not going to go in. Don't go into my Hampton days.
No,
please.
we're not going into it.
I was
Didn't exist.
I was signing autographs.
Yeah.
We'll just leave it
Yes.
at that. We're gonna leave it at that.
No. But I always liked her. I knew
Well,
I liked her.
there were clubs that played that the Hamptons had Irish music, wasn't?
Nah, not when I was out there. I was
Oh, okay.
70, 71, 72.
Okay.
I didn't
all rock and
never
roll.
saw it was all rock and roll to me,
Okay.
as Billy Joel said.
There you go. Yeah.
But anyway, I always liked her, and we had met at a few occasions at the airport. There was some tour leaving. We were there, and some gig we did up in the Bronx, and we walked out together. And I just didn't have the wherewithal to ask her out, and I'm sorry to this day I didn't. But she went home, I went home, and so my partner who was playing, we were playing some place, one of the Irish pubs. Back in those years, we played all the Irish pubs, and he said to me, he said, Sean, he says, I'm telling you right now, you keep talking about this girl. If you don't ask her out, I will. So I said, "Oh shit, I better do something. Shit will go off the pot."
Exactly, yeah.
So that was Sunday night, and we had a rehearsal the following night for Ireland. We were leaving that, I think, that weekend, the following weekend or the following Thursday, whatever it was. And so we did the whole rehearsal, and we came around the corner. It was the Irish American Center in Mineola. And we walked up. There was Gleason's Irish Bar there. So we all walked in, all the dancers, a couple of the parents and stuff. So we went in, and I just started talking to her. We started talking and talking and talking and talking. And I had known her for all this time, but not like that,
Right,
you know?
right.
But her boyfriend's brother was in the bar. He was in the tour. He was on the tour, you know?
Right. So he's keeping you from making that move.
I was making the move. So he come up. He didn't say a word to me, but he said to her, he got her by the arm and he says, "Come on, I'm going to take you home. Protect his brother."
Right.
His brother was still in Brooklyn.
Right.
And she says, "No." She says, "No, I have a ride home." And so he suspected that. And then her father was there, the guy who was in the Navy.
Right.
And I said to her father, I said, "Don't worry, Don." He said, "I'll take her home." And he was happy with that. So, and we kind of closed the place. Then we went to a diner, and we sat and talked, and we had breakfast, whatever the hell it was. I didn't get her home till 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning.
That's awesome. That sounds like my bar days.
Yeah, 7 o'clock in the morning, and I thought her mother was going to meet me with a golf club at the door. You know,
Yeah,
what the
exactly.
hell was this? You know, but I'd known them so well. I'd been in their house before and everything. They never said a word, and we went off to Ireland, and we were sneaking around, of course. Then went on the tour. We didn't want anybody to know. Of course, everybody knew. You know,
Right.
It spread like wildfire.
Right, right, I'm sure.
Can't
And we
really
all-
cover that.
And we only dated 10 weeks.
So you guys,
Yeah, 10 weeks, and then we got engaged. That was
so
it.
you guys literally were professionally linked,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
that's awesome.
And that's
So music was really molded your life to what it is today.
it's been
In
my
every-
whole,
in
it's
almost
been my,
every-
the whole
it's been
life,
my whole
everything.
life.
Every aspect.
Every
Teaching
aspect
it
of my
in
life.
school and then private
Yeah.
teaching.
That's
you know?
that's
I was,
amazing.
I was a teacher for 40 years. I was an adjunct professor at Queens College for a while. I taught in some conservatories in the city, and then I got the job at Manhasset Public Schools, and I was director of strings there for 30 years.
Oh wow!
And that's where I retired out of there, you know.
Wow.
And then came back, but when we came back from Ireland, you won't remember this name. It was the first singing Irish pub in North America. It was called the John Barleycorn. It was on 45th Street off 3rd Avenue. And we went in, we auditioned. We were playing some of the local joints out here before. We started, my band was called the Druids, which was
That's cool.
a name I hated. But,
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
I find that cool.
I wish I had gone with our own name, but it was Ray Brennan, who was from Ireland, and myself. We were playing some of the local joints, Brooklyn, Bronx, Manhattan, all these places. The crowning star was the Barleycorn. If you got in there, you know, everybody was in there. All kinds of celebrities came in there, all kinds of stuff. And we went in an audition. It was like a Tuesday night or Wednesday night, whatever the hell it was. And the crowd loved us. And so I said to the manager, I said, Jerry O'Malley. And I said, Jerry, he said, well, what do you think? He says, well, we'll call you. Yeah, so I said, well, it was nice anyway. At least I can say I played for an hour here anyway.
Right.
He calls me 3 days later. He says, you got the job. And we ended up staying 6 years.
Wow.
3-4 nights a week.
So you were like the
Yeah.
resident musician.
We were the resident band.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, that's amazing.
For 6 years. We were there from 73 to 79. And we were actually losing money by staying there because we were getting pub money and we should have been getting
big money.
Big money.
Concert
and
money.
Ended up with a 4-piece, 5-piece band. We were touring, and I was not playing fiddle. I was playing guitar. I was the lead singer and guitar player. And so we did. I ended up playing today over 1,200 weddings of my life.
Oh my
Yeah,
Lord.
that's how, and thousands.
Wow,
of
you've done a
gigs
lot,
there.
huh?
Yeah, it was a real wedding band, but it was Irish based. But we did all the rock and roll, all Italian.
So you could cover like a lot
we
of
covered
everything.
If you left something out, don't hire that band. you
Right,
know?
right.
So you're going to get a mix of all kinds of people. Sometimes it was 5% Irish and 95% rock. Sometimes it was 50-50. Sometimes it was 30-70, whatever it was.
Right,
you know?
right.
I discussed everything. You know?
Right, right.
And these brides would send, these bridezillas would send us in with
Playlist of songs.
A playlist of songs. Honest to
That's gotta
God,
be really annoying,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
it's
you
the-
couldn't read it in a week.
You
Never
don't
mind
see-
play it.
That's
at
the thing.
far-
You don't hire, like, I hired a DJ because the bands were so exorbitantly expensive.
Yeah, yeah.
And, for the family's sake, I wanted to get a band because I
Yeah.
thought the families would have
Nothing
enjoyed
like
it.
live music.
Nothing
Not
like live music.
No.
And a great band is expensive. So
Yeah.
for us, it was like, okay, should we do certain other things like
Yeah.
extend the, we had, I'm a big, it was about the food,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm like, we could get like a really, we got the seafood boat instead of the
Yeah,
band.
yeah,
and
yeah.
We went
There's
that
some
route.
things to go and all that.
And I was
Yeah.
able, but my point was, I was able to pick songs because it's a DJ.
Yeah, yeah.
But if I
Oh, that's-
hired a
that's
band,
easy for the
right?
band, yeah.
If I hire a band, you're
just let
hiring a
them
band.
play.
You're
Right, let
hiring a
them-
band to
Yeah.
hear them play.
Yeah,
not
exactly.
to tell them that. Well, you're not a
Yeah,
director.
Yeah,
No.
I know.
Well, anyway,
Crazy.
why don't
People
we
are just nuts.
why don't we play another one of a clip from another one of your songs?
I'll
And,
tell you, play the first one there, Michael, because that's the Quinn brothers. That's my three brothers.
That one
yes,
right there?
Oh,
my
right.
three brothers and myself. These are a couple of tunes that I wrote, and I'm not playing fiddle on this. I'm playing guitar on this. Louis playing. My brother's
Louis playing the fiddle.
Louis playing the fiddle.
I love
Kevin
that.
and
I love
Brian.
that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
is awesome.
If that doesn't get your feet moving, nothing will.
I mean,
I
that-
put
you
a
know-
lot. I put a lot of percussion on that. I had about 3 different percussionists on that.
There was a lot
Even
of
the
energy in that
bongos,
song.
a lot of energy. That's the fun.
Yes.
You know, that moves you. You know.
I just, you know what I think I just came to?
I had Mike moving too.
Yeah,
was
he looked
moving.
like he-
Yeah, Mike was
moving.
ready. Mike was ready to do a jig.
He was.
a little Puerto Rican jig.
Yeah.
I think I came to kind of a little bit of a revelation in a sense that certain, you know how certain rock songs or hip hop songs will start light
Yeah.
and then go into that heavy kind of
yeah.
And that song started really like innocent and gentle, and then just was like it was just
I
rocking.
kept building it up. I
I felt that build up slowly in that trend. That was
Yeah, but I think
awesome.
that even every time he turned up the volume, it just seemed to do more
Yeah.
to get you
It's
to
awesome.
want to do something like that.
Like you said, if you don't like that, man, you're dead inside. I think.
Well,
Yeah.
thank
you
you.
said you said a little nicer. I'll always be the raw one.
Yeah.
But that is amazing. And you you again, you're a New York guy. You're a Flushing guy.
I'm a Flushing guy.
So
yeah.
this is kind of like a good transition for us because I'm a Flushing guy. Mike's a Flushing guy.
Yeah.
And I think that as Flushing guys, being you grew up on the streets essentially. You're playing ball in the parks. and
Absolutely. I
stick
was an
ball,
avid ball player. I was
And-
a big time ball player.
and
yeah.
and we all played it like
Every single sport.
every day,
Every day.
every day, every
Yeah.
sport. And we became sports fans,
Yeah.
passionate about
Yeah.
our teams.
yeah.
It's a big
And-
sports fan here.
Right, and
you know,
so we were lucky. Mike's a Jet fan, but so I was more lucky in '86.
Yeah.
Because I was able to see, two teams that I rooted for. Because
Yeah.
I started rooting in '82, '83.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was only 4 years later that my teams were,
Yeah.
But you had the luxury of 1969.
Yes, I did.
And
I was
and-
going to talk about that. I told Mike I'd like to talk about that.
Well, he told me you wanted to,
Well-
and
But it's a great
I'm obsessed with that year of how.
Well, I'm going to talk about 2 years. The first one's 1963. I was in high school at the time. It was a Friday, November, and the principal brother, I was Catholic high school, principal brother come on, and he said, we have some very, very bad news. Our president, Kennedy, was assassinated in Dallas, Texas today, and everybody was just, nobody talked. Even
Rocked,
I
yeah.
saw my teacher, the guy, it was a big guy, it was a big Irish Franciscan brother, and I could see him well enough. We all did, and we didn't know what, and he says, in lieu of that, nobody wants to do any schoolwork. He says, just pack up and go home.
I mean, we're obviously too young to remember that, but
Yeah.
did anybody not like Kennedy? He was like
But
a rock star, wasn't he?
It didn't make any
in
difference.
the South, they didn't like him.
Yeah,
in the South,
but-
they didn't really didn't.
Well,
like
he
him.
was the first Catholic president.
Right.
And he was Irish and so forth and so on. We were Irish people, but let me tell you, I got on the train. Now, I had a job at that time. I just first started working. It was for a greeting card company that my cousin had gotten me. And my job was 5 days a week after school. I had to take a train from Greenpoint, Brooklyn to Queens, Forest Hills. It was a
Jeez.
now defunct.
That was awesome, by the way. He just said, "What the Forest Hills?" All right,
Whatever you can not to.
we're recording that on the
Yeah.
sound.
So it was like the F train. I get off at Austin Street in Forest Hills, and it was 5 days a week. And I would take the mail. This was before computers. Nobody
Right.
had computers. Everything was handwritten.
Right.
So I had to take a big bundle of orders for this Norcross. If you remember Norcross greeting cards, but they're long gone. But there was a big company. It was second or third rated in the country. Big thing. I would have to take that into Manhattan, back into Manhattan. 38th Street and Madison Avenue was the corporate offices. And I'd bring it upstairs, I'd give it to the secretary, and I go home. That was it. And I get paid for 3 hours, whatever it was. $1.25 an hour.
Oh my God!
How do you like that, folks? Minimum wage, $1.25 an hour.
Not 125.
Not
now,
120.
guys.
$1.25 an hour.
That is
25
insane.
an
What did the
hour.
subway cost you? 10 cents?
I didn't pay the subway. I had the pass.
School,
Oh.
Or the buses. I had the school pass.
Yeah.
Now, the school pass was only good at the station you used, but I used to flash it quick. and
Right.
And I would go through. There was no turnstile. There were turnstiles, but they had the doors.
Right, so you could walk
They
through
just
the door.
walk right through the
we
wooden
did
door.
the same thing
We
on
did
Main
the same
Street.
thing. We did.
we didn't have
Yeah.
passes.
We
no.
didn't have passes, so we went to school. We could walk to school, but
Yeah.
we hung out with kids that had passes.
Yeah.
So,
So
we
you
would
just
just walk
walk
with
with
them,
them.
Yeah.
and just kind of like
I-
go to the game.
I got back to Main Street, Flushing, got on the 13 or the 28 up Northern Boulevard, and I got off 157th Street. But anyway, it was the weirdest thing. I got to tell you, this was one of the saddest days. This is almost 60 years ago now. This 1963, November 22nd, and I got on the train to go to the city, and it was weird. Nobody was moving on the trains. Everyone was like this,
Like in
with,
shock.
with the face on, you know.
Yeah.
So I got off the train, and I'm feeling like crap, like everybody else. And I walked up, and I walked to the corporate office. People were passing me like zombies. I will never, for the rest of my life, I was just a kid, 16-year-old kid, but I never forgot the impact of that. And I walked up to the corporate offices. There was hardly anybody in there. And the girl I usually give the mail to was gone, so I just put it on her desk. I didn't know what else to do. And I came downstairs, and I got back on the train going home to Flushing, and it was people were crying and sobbing, and one guy, I'll never forget this. It was on the 7 train into Flushing, and he was a big guy, bigger than me. I'm only 5'11". He was about 30-something. He was about your height.
Right.
He was a big guy, if I remember. And he had a Daily News in his hand. And he went over to one of the poles that was standing there, and he starts beating the hell out of the pole with the newspaper and crying. This big guy that you never think would cry.
Right.
You know, I wasn't crying, tears coming down, but I felt I was empty.
Right.
Everybody was empty.
Right.
You know, and going home and getting down the 13 bus, and it was a horrible. The whole aura of the city changed. You know what New York City is like, you know?
Absolutely.
Well, these days, but I'm talking back in the 60s. The place was energetic. There was people talking all the time. 100,000 people, and nobody. There was nobody there. It was ghost town. Everybody just scattered. By the time I got into Manhattan, they'd all gone home already, you know?
Right.
They were all gone.
Yeah.
And this guy was beating the hell with his newspaper and crying like a baby. I almost went over to console him. He's
Right.
a 35-year-old big guy. You
Right,
know? I'm just
right,
a high school kid with a leather sweater on.
And
you
I'm
know?
sure a lot of that
Basketball
went on
sweater
with people consoling
You know, listen,
strangers.
for that man,
Yeah.
like that particular person,
Yeah. Right.
you know, that feeling was universal.
Yeah, it was universal.
100%, yeah.
But he couldn't keep it in. I was trying my best to keep it in.
Right.
So I got home, and my father was already home from Clintonville Street here. That's where he had his office at that from the late 50s right till he retired in the 70s. And I gave my mom a hug, and you know she was all upset and crying and everything. And I took off that night. I went down to an Italian friend of mine who was in school with me. He went home. He came from Flushing to Greenpoint every day too. And I went over to his house, and he had parents had a little black and white TV, and we saw that all the news on, Walter Cronkite, the whole thing was going on, you know. And it was just everybody followed the whole thing. And,
Right,
you
it
know,
must have been pandemonium,
Little John
like-
Kennedy, you know, the famous picture with him
Yeah,
saluting the
yeah,
casket and stuff. You know?
yes.
And Caroline there, and of course the wife. But that was something to never forget. It was like 9/11, but with this 63, it was the president
Right.
who was assassinated by these scum, you know,
Right,
whoever it was. And we still don't
You
know.
didn't,
to this
right,
day.
of course. Yeah,
I don't know who's, you know, Lee Harvey
I
Oswald.
don't think we'll ever find out.
I don't think we'll ever find out. You know, the
I mean,
government's
I think
Well,
they proved that it's almost impossible for it to have been just him by himself.
Of
Yeah,
course,
like
I don't believe that for a second.
No,
Like-
it's hard to believe it.
And even that, what they say, like, there's little things that they pull out now, but like the gun that they found, that World
Yeah,
War,
there was
that
a lot
single,
going
that
on.
single shot,
There was a lot going
is
on.
not powerful enough to make that shot.
Wouldn't even make it, and to be that accurate. And I'll tell you something else. He was rubbed out the following day.
Right,
So
exactly.
give me a break.
Talk
And the
about
guy who
cleaning up
rubbed
your
him out,
mess.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
guy who rubbed him out was like,
Yeah.
yeah, you know
And
what,
then
I'm
it's-
I could see the picture. 2 guys on each side of me. He's here. Jack, it's here.
Yeah, it's right there.
Jack, yeah.
Yeah,
Jack's got 6 months to live because he's got terminal.
I could only imagine what that. I mean, obviously we had 9/11 as our.
Yeah.
I was on my honeymoon.
On 9/11.
I got
Yeah.
married. I got married September 7th, 2001. So we went on a honeymoon on the 9th, 2 days after our wedding,
Yeah.
and we went down to Mexico.
Yeah.
And the first day we got there, you know, it's like the newlyweds. You know, they
Yeah,
greet all the
yeah.
newlyweds, and they do like this whole newlywed
Yeah.
thing. Like you do, like you go to dinner together.
Yeah.
They show you the whole place. You go to bars. They give you drinks the whole time.
Right.
And we get, I think we got there like 8 in the morning.
Yeah.
So by 10 o'clock at night, we're like knocked out sleeping.
Yeah.
And the following morning, my ex-wife says, okay, I'm going to go to the lobby. I want to get some, like, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
It was a huge hotel, still there, called the Moon Palace.
Yeah.
So it took her like 20 minutes to get to the lobby. You know,
Yeah.
it's like a spread, not tall hotel, it's a spread out
Spread
hotel.
out, yeah.
And she calls me and she goes, Stuyvesant High School was hit by a plane.
Stuyvesant High School.
And I said, there's no way Stuyvesant High School could get hit by a plane because it's the smallest building in that whole area.
Yeah, right.
You know, so I mean,
Yeah.
you're talking about the financial district, you know.
Yeah.
And so like I put the TV on, and the hardest part for us was, you know, it was tough not being able to talk to anybody because the phone lines were down.
Yeah.
So it was really difficult for us in a sense of not knowing what the hell was going on, not knowing, with all my friends on the job, police, firemen, and policemen.
Yeah.
Not knowing who was dead, who was alive.
Right.
I did lose a few friends.
Yeah.
Thank God it wasn't, you know, a lot more than what, you know, with the numbers that were.
Of course.
But that was my eureka kind of thing,
Yeah.
and I was always told, like, nationwide, like nation-wise, it was comparable to like how people felt when you know, when Kennedy, when Martin Luther King was killed. You know, certain people have a grasp on.
Oh yeah.
Because it happened on American
I'll give you
soil.
But
one-
they could be compared to an attack on American soil.
Yeah, well, 'cause it was
so
like-
that's because they had that much of a, you know, of
I
an
can
effect.
give you one more. Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor, right?
December 7th,
Yes.
41.
Yes.
And certain other things. I know exactly what you're talking about. My brother was caught in that. He came out of the subway under the Twin Towers. As the plane hit, he got hit with all kinds of debris. He was lost for 11 hours. So, he had a 6 or 7 hour operation to repair his legs.
Oh God!
Yeah,
So
but that's for another story.
Yeah,
but,
right,
you know.
for another day.
But anyway, I want to go from that. I want to do 180 here and tell you about 6970.
Right.
Which is a very important, very important to do right now, is to bring some.
Well, I mean, I think it's the opposite end of the rainbow, like the pot of gold on the other end. No pun intended.
180. It couldn't be any more 180 than this story is. But I grew up with. I'll be very brief and very honest with you. My cousin Tommy Hines was a Woodside kid, but he was a Yankee fan. And back in '55, I was only 7. He got me indoctrinated into the Yankees, Mickey Mantle, you know, Yogi Berra, Whitey Ford, all the thing, Billy Martin. So I became a Yankee fan from that. And all my friends in school were all Dodger fans, you know, and they would tease me and stuff, and so I was rooting for them. And of course, the Dodgers won that year.
Right, of course.
So I had to eat dirt,
right,
you know,
right.
A lot of
real
it,
quick.
Right.
But I didn't really care because these were buddies, you
Right.
know, and I just come on, this Brooklyn, you know, the Yankees, all this rivalry stuff for little kids, you
Right,
know?
they're just breaking your chops.
Exactly, you know, and they were doing a good job of it too. So anyway, it came up into the '62, and you know, we know the flight of the Dodgers and the New York Giants. And did you ever meet a New York Giants fan? I never did. So
No.
And I'm talking about in football now. I'm talking about baseball.
I never met
did.
somebody was like, you know, I learned.
I personally know people whose family were,
Yeah.
and that's why they became Met fans.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't, you know, you had Dodger fans and
Yeah.
Giant fans that you either
National
went,
League.
you either went to the LA with
Yeah.
them, like as
Yeah.
far as your rooting.
and a lot of
interest
Dodger
is
fans did because they were in disbelief that that
Yeah.
team was
some,
gone.
I mean, some people, you know,
But I don't think they stayed. to be quite
not a
honest
lot
with
of
you.
people
Not-
did,
no.
and I think that more Met fans came from those two.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're like the bastard child of the Dodgers and the
Yeah.
Giants.
Yeah.
Our colors are derived from the Dodgers and the
Exactly
Giants.
right, yeah.
And I think that a lot of the families, they wouldn't let, you know, you're not
Become
letting
a
your kid
Yankee.
become a Yankee
No
fan.
way.
It just wasn't going to
I know, it
happen.
wasn't
No way.
happen, you
So
know?
I think that that's kind of where our history is.
Yeah.
And I mean, like I said, I was able to watch '86, so it was different.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you're in the inception of the team.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to you
Well,
guys.
I remember in '62 they were playing up in the old Polo Grounds till '64 when the Shea was built.
Right.
And once Shea was built, I used to go to Shea Stadium because it was easy. Take the bus down to Main Street. I'd walk across if it was nice, Wills Point Bridge there, and go to the stadium. You
Right.
know,
Yep.
it was no big deal. If I was coming home from someplace, get off of Willis Avenue.
Yep.
And go see the. So I was becoming now a Mets fan.
Right. Because
A
it was convenient.
A Yankees fan and a Mets fan. But I can't tell you, if I told you I went to 10 games for the Yankees, I went to 200 games for the Mets.
Right.
It was that kind of a thing because that was
They're so
flushing.
close,
That
and
was
you
so
could get
close.
so much
And I
baseball.
got really into the whole Mets.
Right.
From 64 on 65, I would go on a Sunday afternoon. I hate to tell people this, but you go like 1965, 66, and it would cost you $3.50 for a ticket, and you were sitting 3 rows behind third base.
That's,
you know?
I mean,
And you want a beer? That'll be 50 cents.
right.
You know,
We used to
Hot
walk.
dog, yeah.
We were fortunate enough to walk there a lot.
Yeah.
You know, because of where we lived.
Yeah.
We lived a few blocks from Main Street.
yeah,
I think when we were like around that 13, 14, 15-year-old age,
right.
it was $2 to get in, but general admission upstairs.
$250 general.
$250.
$250 general admission.
Yeah.
And what all you had to do was sit up there, and you could
Yeah.
sit in any section up there, and they
Yeah.
never
They
didn't
didn't bother
really
you,
rate
didn't
it. Didn't
bother
bother
you.
you.
If my mother used to make hot dogs, you would wrap them
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the foil,
Yeah,
stay
like
hot.
my mother
Yeah.
did-
Stay hot. And it was
Yeah.
cheap for us. But
Yeah.
but I remember $6, and I can either go to it was mostly Gloria.
Yeah.
I would go to Gloria Pizza,
Yeah.
like 2 slices and a soda,
Yeah.
and then go to the Met game and have a ticket, sit upstairs, watch the game for $6
For $6,
for the whole day.
yeah. Can you imagine that?
That's I could that is why
Yeah.
you become a fan. You know,
Exactly.
especially when you're
Yeah.
a ball player. You
Yeah,
know,
of
we were all
course.
ball
Yeah.
players, so
Yeah.
you want to watch your favorite team. But
Yeah.
it's so convenient that I don't
know.
understand Yankee fans that grew up where we grew up.
I
My
know.
brother,
I know.
my brother's
I
a
know.
Yankee fan.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't get it.
It's the
I'm
most
like,
because they're popular. They're
Yeah.
a very popular team, even when they
well, he's
weren't
only
winning.
4
Yeah.
years younger than me, 3 years younger than me. So
Yeah.
it wasn't like the Yankees were very good when he was a kid. They weren't.
Yeah.
You know, he was growing up as like Steve Balboni and Danny Tartable. They were
well,
terrible.
yeah, because at the end you had
They were awful.
you had some. Well, you
Joe
had,
Pepitone.
Joe
Pepitone.
Pepitone was a little bad, but
he had his-
I mean,
but
those teams.
He was
terrible.
just a drunk.
Yeah.
Pepitone was a
know.
drunk.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
but
was.
like
But like with the Mets, they were so good in the '80s. They were like,
Yeah.
I mean,
they
were
just underachieved for that
right, but
good
they were
part
good.
of that
They were
career.
good from like '85 to like '93.
They
You know,
were.
and
They
then
were
they
good.
fell
They were
apart.
always
92,
contended,
93 is when they signed
Yeah.
Vince Coleman. That was the
Yeah.
year. That was over. It was
Well,
over.
91
91 they
they-
signed
like-
them, but they were still pretty
Yeah.
good.
Brett Saberhagen and all
right?
that.
They were still
Yeah.
okay.
But
and
if
then
you go
Brett
back,
Saberhagen, yeah.
and before we go to the 1969, we take the reverse track. In '83, the Mets get Tom Seaver back, right? And he's everything. That's why you get the nickname the franchise. They didn't protect him, and they lose him. And I remember
White
later,
Sox, right?
White
White
Sox.
Sox,
He goes to
yeah.
White Sox. He has 2 amazing years in '84 and '85.
Yeah.
And in '85, he pitches in Yankee Stadium, and he wins his 300th win
Yeah.
as a White Sox.
the
in
Mets
New York
gave
for
up
the-
on him twice, and now they're putting a statue in front of his
Right.
stadium.
Well, after he's dead, and he's dead.
And
you
he's
know,
dead,
like
yeah.
he passes.
Gave up on the greatest pitcher of all time
Right.
twice.
Yeah.
twice. And and the first time is funny when he tells the story. Seaver would say like he just didn't get along, and the general manager was like, "How am I gonna? Who's this star gonna tell me
He
how
was
it goes?"
he.
Yeah.
The
He was always-
ownership of the Mets at the time was like a committee.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
It wasn't-
It was what the board of directors. It's
Board
what,
of directors, right? So
Yeah.
The
he-
Packers have that.
right.
Board of directors.
So he said that there was no way to ever have that kind of an intimate relationship with your ownership.
Yeah, right.
Because it was a committee. It was the guys sitting around the table with
exactly
zero
right, yeah.
feelings about baseball.
Yeah, yeah.
And they
And
went-
also zero knowledge.
and
pretty
zero
much.
knowledge. They traded Nolan Ryan.
I
They
know.
traded Seaver. They
Yeah.
traded all the great players.
Great
They
players, yeah.
they were clueless. So
Yeah.
our team, in essence, was ruined for about a decade and a half
Yeah.
because of that
By
ownership,
poor
by
management.
poor management.
Well, I
and
can give you
ownership.
another one. Like if we're going into that, they drafted with the number 1 pick. They drafted a catcher named Steve Chilcutt, who the reason why you don't know him because he never did anything. He never really made it. Never played. He played a little
Such
bit
a
in the minor league.
baseball name too, right? Chilcutt.
Chilcutt.
Oh,
And
that's
the
great.
number 2 draft pick that Oakland took was Reggie Jackson.
Yeah, look at that.
And I mean, that's just how close it is to repairing some of your mistakes with one of the greatest hitters of all time to let's continue these mistakes and see if we can ruin
who
it.
ended up with the Yankees?
Who
Yeah.
ended up with the
Because
Yankees.
the owner of
Mis-
Oakland was
Mr.
so
October.
cheap. He was so cheap. That guy was so cheap. He just decided like he didn't want to pay anybody more money.
Yeah.
So that team had won 3
Gave
in a row.
everybody away.
Yeah.
But going in reverse, it was like so from the 80s when you got to see them in 86 and you know how close they were in 87, 88. They lose in the playoffs. 87.
But I think it's different for us because they were so good. We expected them to win.
more. They should have
Yeah.
expected
They were
more.
20-something games in first place.
Yeah.
In '69, that team wasn't really supposed to do
No,
anything.
they
No.
weren't supposed to do so. So
So-
it was the Cubs.
Right.
Supposed to be the Cubs that were in the-
Right.
against Baltimore, not the Mets. The Mets had a miracle run. But anyway, getting back to that situation, the elation in the city. And I was playing gigs at the time, was finishing college. We got drafted right after that. But the energy in the city. Now, the Knicks were playing Super Bowl. They won, of course, the championship.
The famous Willis Reed story, walking on the court.
Walking on the court injured, limping, whatever it was.
Limping on the court.
And of course...
And Clyde Frazier actually having the game. It was his game that game.
Yeah, it was.
He's the one who went nuts.
Yeah.
He scored 35 points.
But you remember...
Well, you remember Willis walking on...
Right.
Because it put fear in the... It was more about the idea of him playing and coming out and making the fans go crazy than it was really him doing anything. He was a body. He actually, he's a big guy, so it's not going to hurt.
Right.
But I think he made 2 shots that game. After that,
sometimes there's a guy who doesn't.
And Clyde
do
just
much
went off. Clyde had 40 plus, right?
Yeah.
Like 10 or 11 assists.
And Bradley was always Bradley.
Bradley was
always
consistent.
Bradley. Consistent,
Yep.
great player,
Yep.
And so was Earl of Pearl, They were great. I used to go to the Garden all the time, get off the end of go in the city and get down to the Penn Station there. You get the railroad in Flushing, or I get it with 162nd Street.
Yeah.
That's where I got on.
Yeah,
right,
Broadway.
Stop before you.
Murray Hill.
No, it's Broadway.
Broadway.
Murray Hill's the next one.
Murray Hill's
yeah.
where we hung out.
Yeah, Murray Hill. Sometimes you got on. It was kind of an equal walk back to where I
Right.
lived in Flushing. But that was, talk about the Garden going crazy. I remember them, and here's a name from the past. Lou Alcindor, who became, of course, Kareem Abdul. But I think he played for Milwaukee.
Yes.
Right before that,
Yep.
the Bucks.
Yep.
And they were saying, I was at that game, and I was sitting down pretty close to the court, and they were screaming, "Goodbye, Louis. Goodbye, Louis," whatever the hell it means. And they were saying, they're giving this one of these,
Right.
and this big guy. In fact, I saw him play. He was from Power Memorial.
Right.
And he played against my high school, Catholic High School League, which was St. Francis. And they only beat us. It was a close game. They beat us by 56 points.
Oh,
So
my
it was
God.
like-
was so close.
You have a 7'2" high school kid. You didn't have a chance.
I mean, the closest you're going to get is 60. He got 56.
That's insane.
Oh, yeah, sure.
That's insane.
It was insane. It was just ridiculous. Yeah, he could have been out there by himself.
Right, and just destroyed the whole
we could
thing.
have set 5 nuns out there.
Right,
Would have
yeah,
been
right.
do-
You had a better shot at it.
Would have done as well as
He
we
probably
did,
would have missed more shots.
Yeah,
because
probably.
it would have freaked him out.
Yeah.
But
Trip him,
but
How do you call a foul on a nun? You can't.
Yeah.
no, right, exactly.
The guy, he's just about to blow the
Sorry,
whistle.
sister, I'm so
He's just
sorry.
about to blow the whistle, and he's like.
But when it comes to that year, that was obviously a special year all
Oh,
around
it was,
because
it
of,
was amazing.
just
year.
because of all the teams that did.
Yeah.
The Mets, the Jets.
The Jets. Didn't even talk about the Jets yet.
I
I
mean-
mean, I was over the moon with Namath. I loved Namath. Went to.
That was my next question. Were you a Namath guy?
Oh,
because
God, yes.
you either loved him or you hated him.
No. I liked them.
Yeah.
I had. In fact, I'll tell you something. My father, I told you, got the Daily News, right? He was a big Daily News guy. On the front cover of all 3 endings of all 3 sports was a picture. One was Namath walking off with his. Remember that famous picture?
Yep, with
and
the
then
finger up.
I had the Mets, around the picture or whatever picture they had.
Right.
And then I had the Knicks. I saw the Knicks doing the same thing,
Right.
cutting down whatever they were
Yep,
doing.
yep.
And I had in my bedroom in Flushing, I had those 3 things.
That's awesome. I still have
on
a
the
couple
wall,
from
yeah.
the from
I wish I
86.
still had them.
Yeah, I still have a couple.
But when I got married, my mom threw away just about everything.
Right.
Everybody has
Of
that
course.
story.
Yeah.
No, believe it
She
happened
threw
to me
away-
too.
I had some of the most expensive baseball cards from the 50s and 60s. And I had them in a certain part of the attic, had my stuff over here. And I moved out with Kathy. We moved over to 149th Street in Flushing. So then we bought a house in New Hyde Park in 76. So I went back after I got some of the stuff, and I went back to get some of the treasures I had left there. Gone.
Oh my Lord.
Gone. It was 2 shoeboxes.
Somebody
You
got
know how
it.
many baseball cards you get in a shoebox?
Yeah.
Gone. Gone forever. Well, I didn't know you wanted them.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's kind of the story I had.
It's like you never, you look back at it now, but at that moment, there's only a select few people were probably like,
Yeah.
this is going to be worth something.
Right.
Everyone else is like,
Yeah.
open them up, take them out, flick them around, do something with
Half
it.
the time they throw it in the trash, not
Yeah,
knowing.
and
The other
yeah.
half they actually.
I had Mantle cards from the 50s. I had Seaver cards from the early 60s when he first came up, rookie cards, all this kind of stuff.
So did you? Just because obviously us not being there, Did you know about Joe Namath guaranteeing the win before
Yes.
the game?
Yes.
So it was
all over the
everybody
place.
knew about
Everybody
it.
knew about it.
So the pressure was on.
It was the day or two before the Super
Right.
Bowl.
It was at his award shows. He was in an
He
awards.
predicted they would beat Baltimore.
Yeah, the way I
with
understood
Johnny
it was
Unitas.
that he was in the he was receiving an award for the team.
Yes, he was.
accepting it on behalf of the team.
Yes, yeah.
And a heckler from the back of the audience
Yeah,
said,
that's what it was.
"We're
He
gonna
goes,
kick
"We're
your ass,
rest."
Joe."
Yeah.
And he goes, I guarantee you we're going to win.
Yeah.
And the way, you know how he
Baby.
talks,
Yeah.
baby. The way he talks.
But
he
the
was
funniest
like,
part is that nobody remembers a quote that I remember, which I loved. I'm the retrospective fan because I'm so much younger. I love Joe. I thought he was the epitome of cool.
He was
So,
Mr. Cool. He
I mean,
was
come
Mr.
on.
Cool.
He wrote a book which is one of the greatest titles of all time. You know what the title was, Mike? I can't wait till tomorrow because I get better looking every day. That's like the greatest name for a book ever. And I remember seeing that for the first time. And anyway, but
he was. We used to call
which
him
was like a
Mr.
couple hours ago.
Pantyhose. Mr. Pantyhose.
Mr. Pantyhose because he
And
did the legs, the Haints.
Yeah, and they worked.
Right.
Because it was so cold.
Yeah.
You know, even Flushing gets cold.
Oh
you
yeah,
know?
we wore Danskins when we played ball.
Yeah.
But I thought that it was cool that that he didn't it was more of a you're not going to talk because the way people think, oh, it's just this brash guy predicting a win.
Yeah.
It was more about the Jets were the redheaded stepchild that was getting smacked around for a week.
Yeah.
Saying we're going to beat the hell out of the Jets.
Well,
They're
there
not
wasn't-
on our level.
Yeah,
One.
That's what everything was about.
The,
There was
the
like,
coach of the Colts,
not even close.
whoever the coach
Forgot,
was.
who was the coach again?
I don't
forget.
remember,
Yeah,
but anyway,
yeah.
his quote was, "I'll ask you want my opinion on Joe Montana. I'll tell you when he plays a professional football game."
Name it.
So
Namath.
I said
Yeah.
Montana. Namath.
Yeah.
So now Namath was like, and then Namath's response was, "I watched the Colts play this year.
Yeah.
I don't understand how they won 13 games."
Yeah.
And then it became a real back and
Yeah,
forth.
back and forth.
But
It was like two fighters.
but it's just him defending himself after
Yeah.
how many times you're going to say you're going to beat my ass.
But
I mean,
when
Yeah.
you get to that time though, like
That's
you
why
did
it was
have
sweet.
flash.
That's why it was really sweet.
right.
was
I think
because-
that's why it was
It was
so
like,
sweet.
It was
because
like chocolate candy from Switzerland.
There you go.
I love
Yeah,
that.
you know that Namath wasn't great. He just had
No,
a
he
really
wasn't great.
No,
he had
he
a
wasn't.
great moment.
And probably
great
not a Hall
moment,
of Famer, but
right,
what he
not
did,
even close. But
what he did
at that moment,
right.
Yeah.
he led a team that
Yeah.
clearly, by the books and all
He
the
made
pros,
the AFL
Yeah.
relevant.
Right.
I mean,
He
that's all there
he
is to
did.
it.
He made
He
it
did.
relevant.
Because
yeah.
who knows if they would have got smoked?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
the,
that was-
what was it?
like-
Jim, you know that Jimmy the Greek did the odds on that?
Yeah,
Jimmy,
he
you know,
did.
and Jimmy the Greek was an
Well,
Irishman,
gave
which
him
I had no
60
idea.
They gave him six.
Jimmy the Greek is an
They
Irishman.
gave the Colts 16 and a half.
18.
And what went
It was
on?
18 points.
Yeah.
And Jimmy the Greek made the line. And then he said, I know, he goes, I'm eating some serious crow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But who knows the history of the direction of the NFL if the Jets get destroyed.
Right.
Yeah, right.
By
Exactly.
six, by
Because they won't take it seriously, and
maybe
they'll
they
just
said,
say
this merger sucks in
Yeah,
3
this
years.
is
And
out,
then,
Yeah.
you
I
know,
know.
so
Yeah.
really he kind of,
Yeah.
molded the direction that the NFL turned into, which is pretty amazing in Super Bowl
I
III.
got to tell you one story about the Mets in '69 when they won the last game. I had been at a previous game, but I didn't have tickets for the. We didn't know it was going to be the last game
Right.
because didn't go 7 games, didn't it? It went 6 games, didn't it?
It went 6.
Six games. So right. So I'm coming home on the 7 train. I'm coming home from school, and the doors open. I could see pulling into the station, and I had my little Japanese transistor radio. And if you think I was the only one tuned into the Mets, you're wrong.
That's crazy.
You could go anywhere on the train,
And everybody had one.
Somebody had
and you
one.
can't miss a beat.
That's
Ralph Kiner and Bob Murphy, and they're doing the whole thing. So I see it coming in. There's 1 million people on the station. So I said, "What the hell's going to happen here?" And it was still pretty crowded. I mean, it wasn't, but it was in the afternoon. It was like 5:30, something like in the afternoon when the game was over.
Oh, right.
You could hear the crowd as you were getting to the
Pulling
station.
into the station.
Pulling into the station. So the doors open up. I'll never forget it. I'm standing up. I got holding onto the pole, right? And this girl, I'll never forget it. Kathy knows the story, so I can tell you the story.
When it starts with a girl,
Yeah.
you're like, hold on.
Kathy knows the story.
Nah.
I'm okay. I got the green light.
I'm standing there, and I got some books in my hand. I'm just holding on to the thing, and she was older than me. I was probably 21, maybe 20, something like that, whatever I was at the time. And the doors open up, and she was about 25, 26. She looked it anyway. Beautiful girl, and dressed with the high heels and everything. And she looked quickly around, and she saw me, and she made a beeline for me, and she grabbed me around the neck and put a lip lock on me that lasted about 30 seconds.
What?
Honest to God. Yeah, honest to God. This is a God honest truth. And put a lip lock on me, and she's hugging me and everything, and then she was gone.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a true
And she was
story.
by herself?
She was by herself.
That is
Yes, that-
weird.
That's how you can get away with kissing somebody to celebratory way.
Kathy,
I mean-
Kathy, this was 69.
Yeah.
Not 73.
Not 73.
Or 2009. Yeah. Wow. So that actually happened to me in a club once, but it was a nightclub, and the girl was like, you think something like that would happen in a club.
Yeah,
She looked across the bar. She was like 6'2". She was
Yeah.
so tall.
yeah,
And she was like gorgeous. But
yeah.
it was weird. She just walked over to me. She looked at me. She's like, I don't want to know your name.
Yeah.
Kissed me for about 15 seconds. Good, like,
yeah.
real good kiss.
Yeah.
Walked to the other side of the bar. I tried to send her a drink over. She wouldn't take it.
Yeah, there you
So
go.
I was like, her friends definitely dared her to do that shit. That was
No, it was this woman's daughter. That's what it was.
Yeah, that was,
right. Like mother,
it
like daughter.
It runs in the family.
Yeah,
what can I
I
tell
guess
you?
so.
family.
That's funny.
Yeah.
But did you in that year officially declare your love for the Mets after
Yes.
they won a World Series?
I never didn't like the Mets. The only person I could convince was my father-in-law, Kathy's father, who was a Brooklyn Dodger fan growing up in Brooklyn, and loved the Mets, eat, sleep, and drink the Mets, as Donnie, who called.
Right.
They were all, and I have more Mets hats than I have Yankee hats. I only have 2 Yankee hats. I have about 10, and I'll tell you why I have 10 Yankee hats. There was a big article in the paper about it. My Uncle Tommy, who was from the west of Ireland, a place called Galway, Tommy Lydon. He was the head ticket taker for 50 years. They just gave him a memorial at Shea, and then into Citi Field. He's 90. He's going to be 91 in October now. And he's like Pete Flynn, the Irish guy.
Yeah,
He was from
absolutely.
Ireland. All
Pete
those
Flynn
years.
was the head landscape, the grounds crew.
Grounds
crew.
I knew Pete.
Yeah.
I knew Pete because he drank at the Pennant Fever, Danny's bar.
Yeah.
So, and that was on College Point Boulevard.
Yeah.
So they.
He was a Queens guy.
Oh well,
Yes,
he
yeah.
was Woodside guy, wasn't he?
I think he was a Woodside.
Sunnyside
yeah,
or Woodside?
Sunnyside or
Sunnyside,
Woodside.
I
Yeah,
think.
yeah,
But
yeah.
now you come out of right next door to Tasty Bread,
Yeah.
to Western Beach.
So when you're coming back across that Flushing Bay Bridge
Yeah.
into Flushing,
Yeah.
so that's College Point Boulevard. In
Yeah.
front of you, you have
there used to be a bar on the corner of Maple and College Point Boulevard.
yeah.
Three blocks to the
It was
right.
called the Maple Crest.
3 blocks to the
Maple
right.
Crest.
Okay, I don't know
Yeah.
if it was like probably around
That
the
time it would
70s
be
and
Maple
80s.
Crest.
Yeah.
And then when he bought it, he turned it into the Pennant. He owned the. I don't know if you remember the Parsons Inn on
Yes,
Parsons
I do. Of
and-
course I do. Yeah.
He
sure.
bought the Parsons Inn.
Oh,
and
wow.
he turned it into the Pennant Fever.
Wow.
And he put an NY with a blue cap on the front door,
Yeah.
like it was like an awning.
You
It was actually really
you
cool.
couldn't miss it was the Mets.
And
yeah.
he put
yeah.
right, and he
Oh, yeah.
and he got sued because he had the Mets logo
Yeah.
up and he had to take it down.
Yeah.
So took that awning and put a different name on it and changed bars.
Yeah.
And because he had the Maple Crest. And what happened was McDonald's came in and they offered him like $30,000 a month rent. He
Yeah,
lost
yeah.
that. He lost
Yeah.
that bar. But that was the Pennant Fever. And
yeah.
Pete Flynn used to the whole grounds crew
Yeah.
would after the game. They'd walk right through Flushing Meadow. They drive right through Flushing Meadow Park,
Yeah.
and you could park your car directly, like right outside the, on the side street of the bar. It was
Right.
all spots.
Yeah.
And they were in that bar every night, every single day after the game.
Yeah.
About 11 o'clock, 11:30.
Yeah.
They'd come in until about 1:30, and he was a good guy. Like I got to know him to the point like, hey Pete, what's going on? How you doing?
Yeah.
And he was a real good dude. And
I'll tell you a trivia about Pete Flynn. You probably don't know this. In 1965, you remember who sang at the Shea Stadium?
the
the
Beatles,
Beatles.
the Beatles,
The Beatles.
yeah.
Pete Flynn drove the Beatles in a car onto the field
Get out of here!
and drove them off the field.
Holy
now,
cow.
when they closed Shea in 2008, and Billy Joel had the last
The final
farewell,
show,
the
yeah.
final show,
Yeah.
Paul McCartney was on an airplane landing. He was doing something someplace else, and he landed, and they had a police escort. And to get on the show because Billy Joel wanted him on the show,
Right.
Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
And when he got to Shea finally, it was like the end of the show, and he gets into this golf cart now.
This is
And
awesome.
he's sitting next to Pete Flynn, and Pete turns to him. He says, Jesus, no, Paul. He says, do you not remember me? He says, Jesus, I'm the guy who drove you on the field. It's 1965, and God damn it, I'm still here to drive you out tonight.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, he was there 40-something years, right?
Yeah, he was, and
Over
he
40 years?
drove Paul out to the
That's
thing and
amazing.
drove back
What an
again.
amazing story.
Yeah, all those years in between.
Really good dude. They
He
used
was
to
a
come
good
for
dude,
they
yeah.
used to come for lunch.
Yeah.
Because Danny had always had a good Irish menu.
Yeah.
He would do like the stews, the shepherd's pie, everything that
Yeah.
you would normally do.
Yeah.
And a breakfast.
Yeah.
So some of them would go before work, before the
Right,
day game.
right,
There was a lot of
right.
day games.
Yeah.
Before the day game, they go for, have a,
Yeah.
an Irish breakfast before work.
Yeah.
And then when they started building this was Western Beef Day, the Tasty Bread days.
Yeah,
and then
Tasty
when they
Bread,
took
yeah,
the taste
yeah.
when they
I remember that.
That
song.
really-
that's where we
yeah.
played Little League.
So that's
Oh,
where
right.
we played baseball.
That's where
right
we
next
grew
to
up
it.
You could see it from the train.
Yeah.
Every
Tasty Bread,
single
yeah.
morning when the fresh bread was going
It's
on.
the best
it
smell
would
ever.
distract,
You could
it would
smell it.
distract you from
Yeah.
playing the ball.
It
because
was
it was just right
It
there.
was the greatest smell ever.
It was
Ever.
nothing like it. No,
When
Ever.
people ask me about my
There's
childhood, that's what I remember the
condos
most.
there. They
Yeah,
put
yeah.
condos
The
there
smell
right
of bread while we
Yeah.
were playing baseball.
Yeah.
was
Oh, yeah,
amazing.
man.
Oh, that was there before I was born. I'm sure it was there.
Oh, it was amazing.
Probably the 20s or 30s. Was it Silver Cup?
Sil-
Tasty Bread?
No, Tasty Bread.
Tasty Bread.
Tasty Bread, yeah.
Tasty Bread. Yeah, it was one of
but
those.
yeah, so the idea of like, I think being like where we grew up, and even your proximity of the stadium, we had
Yeah.
connections to the stadium
Yeah.
through like a lot of friends working there.
Yeah.
Like it was natural.
The parking lot, some guys
Right,
parked the
Kinney
cars there.
system it was
Yeah,
called.
Kinney
A lot of our
system.
friends
Yeah,
parked
Kinney,
Some people
cars.
worked in the concessions.
Because if
and
you
stuff
remember
like-
back in those days, it was like basically valet parking.
Sure it was.
You
Yeah,
pulled
yeah,
up,
yeah.
you left your car, and
Right,
somebody
yeah,
would park it
park
for
it
you.
for you, yeah.
Like the whole
Yeah.
idea now is like
Yeah.
insane if you think about it.
I
But our friends worked there for that, and then I knew a bat boy
Yeah.
for the Yankees and the Mets, and that connection I think also is one of those things where it makes you a super fan. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I'm part like.
You feel like you're part of a family.
I feel like I'm part
Yeah,
of a family,
family.
and
Yeah,
it's a
you do.
dysfunctional
You know?
family
Yeah, yeah.
that sometimes
That's Every family is
so
to some
good.
degree,
It is so
I mean, but,
dysfunctional to be a
Yeah.
Met fan.
I just want them to be
And have them-
be a normal family, man. Just be a normal family,
It's
please.
just not going to happen.
I'm gonna do a quick rundown. We got Lynn on the check-in. She says, "Yo, congrats, episode 19." We got Fazell Glover. Hey guys, what's going on?
19, isn't it 20?
We got a 19.
Oh, it's
Actually,
19.
Well, with the first one, it would be 20.
It
Technically,
would,
but,
technically it's 19
Yeah,
because
but
we
it's
didn't
19.
count the first one.
we got Victor.
Thank you, Lynn. Lynn has a
Thank
podcast
you.
also. She
Thank
does
you,
very
Lynn.
Thank you, Lynn.
We got Victor Mascoroto.
Yes, Victor.
Sure,
Master Rocco.
yay,
Master
Victor.
Rocco.
Victor, you
well.
know.
Hey, what's
Victor
up,
Rocco,
Vic?
yeah.
Hey, Victor.
That's-
Very enjoyable show. Love it.
That
you
man,
very much,
Victor. Thank
Victor.
you,
So
Victor.
Matt,
Appreciate that very much.
who's married to Heather, that's his
Yeah.
dad.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, yes,
So
yes.
you know Matt, my
Yeah,
brother-in-law Matt.
Yes, yes.
They're like, so and they
Talk
got
about
it.
Met
They
fans.
talk about Met fans, like
Yeah.
dude, diehard.
Oh,
Met
good.
fan,
So I
Met-
love that they're listening.
Met fan, Islander fans.
Yeah, because
Yo,
okay.
we
Well,
got-
I'll draw the line at Met fan.
Vic,
Met fan.
sorry,
We also got
Get no
James,
love for the Islander fans.
Mr. James Moore on the check-in.
James Moore's back.
James
The
Moore.
draft
More
that
is more.
the draft that come in from the water.
The draft that comes in from the water,
Yeah.
Shea Stadium.
And he says it's
Oh, yes.
freezing.
So
Yes.
I remember like Shea Stadium that when you sat in the middle or at least on the upper deck,
You would get that
that
wind.
that
freezing.
freezing
Yeah.
cold. If you were in shorts or short sleeve shirt,
You
you
were
were
done.
the
You
cold
were
guy.
done.
You're the guy that would tuck your arms into
Yeah.
your shirt because that's how cold it would
You,
get
Oh,
up
it
there.
you moved 10 feet away,
Yeah.
it was Miami Beach.
Yeah, oh
And
my,
you
it
knew-
was,
and you
yeah,
know-
it was awful.
You know when you knew when you were walking through the tunnel.
Yeah.
There was two feelings you had.
Oh, when it ca-
One
yeah, when-
was when you first saw the green grass. It was
Yeah.
like amazing when you walked through that tunnel and saw that for the first
Yeah.
time. But every time you went, it was like it never got old. But on a cold, windy day in April,
Yeah.
oh my God! And we would sit through it, and
You know
you
what's-
walk up the tunnel and you feel it howling at you, and you're like,
Yeah.
it was almost like fighting to get.
Well,
through
when the
tunnel.
game would start and if you had like sometimes we had tickets for all the way up or mid level. By the time you got there, because the escalators was so long to
long.
get there,
Right.
you'd have to watch the game. You're like,
took
oh, I wish I
forever.
would get this. Come on, let's go.
What about leaving?
Yeah,
Leaving was like when we left because of the Subway series has been around for over 20 something years. now.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
22
That's,
years or
yeah,
whatever.
right, yeah.
So the whole Yankee sucks chant when you're leaving the stadium now
Yeah.
that it's become like a regular
Yeah,
thing,
thing,
which is
yeah, no.
kind of annoying. But when you were walking out of Shea, it was like a 45-minute thing if
Yeah,
you
it
sat
was-
upstairs
yes, I know,
because
yeah.
you had to
So-
walk. You had to walk down 40
For some
ramps
reason,
to
the
get
way
to
they rode it. Yeah.
Get the train. You get the late train to
Oh,
Flushing.
forget it.
We walk it. We would just
yeah.
walk it.
Walk, yeah,
Honestly,
walk. Yeah,
we
yeah,
would
walk.
literally we would do it because
It was better to walk.
yeah,
because
because
you
you're
wouldn't
sitting
get
on a
all the jam.
platform for 20
I
minutes looking for
know.
trains. So
and
we
then
would,
try to get a spot on the train.
yeah, and we were broke, so we walked.
Yeah,
that's
so
good.
there's the
That's a good reason.
you spend
Yeah.
all your money in the stadium, you walk your ass
I know,
home.
I
That's
know.
exactly
But in
what we did.
1990, was it 99? Yeah, I think it was 99. It was the Arizona game, the playoff game.
Yes.
With the Todd Pratt
Todd
game winning
Pratt.
him. So we were up
Finley at the wall.
Finley at the wall. So we're
Yeah.
in the upper deck. We're in the
We
left,
went,
left
like-
field side.
Yeah, like first base, like right around first base.
And so
Yeah.
by
Upper
the
deck.
second, third inning, there's three of us. It's
Yeah.
myself, Sean, and his buddy Dennis who was there that day.
Yes.
And we didn't. The fourth seat was open, and it was a mother and her three kids in front of us.
Yeah.
So we get to the third inning, and by the third inning, we have the crowd going. We start a little bit. The crowd, like we get in this good section that's
Yeah.
cheering with us.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
coming up with the chants. We're bringing them in.
Yeah.
This doctor comes and sits down, and he introduces himself, and he said he had the other ticket, whatever, and
Yeah.
his wife and kids. And he's having a blast because now I'm telling him who we are, and
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
doing. He's
yeah,
doing
yeah.
the chants, and he's like, "Oh man," he goes, "I had the opportunity to bring my friends." He goes, "I brought my wife instead." And he was like, wife and kids. He was so disappointed.
Where did he sleep that night?
Not
Not with his wife.
not with his wife. Probably not in his main house. In his
I could
guest
see him
house.
12 o'clock at night
Yeah.
knocking on his
I
friend's
was
door.
just kidding with those guys. I didn't mean it.
Where's the cot?
Yeah. So
Great.
he's the rest of the game as the crowd starts to follow us more, waiting for us to
Yeah.
chant. And he joins in, and at the end of the game, he was like, he was telling me, I had the best
Best time
experience
ever.
ever.
Yeah.
So when we were leaving, we would go from section to section because this is Shea
Yeah.
Stadium,
Yeah.
and we would stop, and we would scream. It's the are you ready?
We were very.
Are you loud?
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
the two of us.
Oh,
Yeah.
you ready?
Yeah.
And we
We do
at
the
the top of our lungs to the whole section.
Yeah,
T
I would do this.
S.
METS.
Yeah.
Mets.
When I
Because
say
I'm not a Jet fan,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm like, we should be doing
we
this
should
right
do
now.
it,
Yeah,
and I'm a
yeah.
Jet fan, and I was like, I'm okay with taking it.
And this was a playoff game.
It's the
Yeah,
playoff
yeah.
It was,
game.
so
They won it in extra inning. I think it was the 10th inning. They might have won. It was the game-winning home run.
we won. It was extra. Was it extra innings or the ninth inning? It was Todd Pratt.
I think it was the
went,
10th inning.
Finley went to the wall, and he hit the wall kind of prematurely.
Yeah.
And his
But
glove
we-
went up. We thought he caught the ball.
but we could
and then
see
he
when
came
the
down
ball
and
back-
he looked at his glove,
There was nothing there.
and it was nothing
But
there.
we could see where like you see nothing there, and
Once
at
it
the same
went
time you
past
see
him,
the
you could see
ball,
it.
the ball
It
bounce.
took a second to register, but
But about 45 minutes of going down from section to section. This is what we did, and we were thousands of people.
yeah, we probably had the whole left field line.
Yeah, the whole left field
Doing
line,
it.
and then down the
It was
stairs,
crazy.
looking up at us, and go, "Those guys,
Upper
those
deck,
guys
yeah,
right
yeah.
there. Go ahead, upper deck, say it." And then we would do it
And we
again.
were, and literally thousands of people were doing it. It was
Yeah.
it was definitely.
Energy.
We tell the story all the
yeah.
time because it was crazy that we got that many people to
Yeah.
comply, to
Right,
do
yeah,
it. But I think it was just the playoff energy.
You
It
know,
was
one
nuts.
thing I hated from the first day I saw it, I never did it.
The wave.
The wave.
I knew you were going to
Still,
say that.
when
would
they bring it
never
back,
I
yeah.
would never stand up. I hate it. I hate
It's
it.
cheesy. It's cheesy.
Cheesy.
It's cheesy.
Cheesy.
We don't know what it means though.
It
Like I don't
doesn't
know.
mean- It means nothing.
Right, nothing. Like
You know what it
somebody
was?
said,
You say
"Yeah."
chins. It was Lindbergher cheese. That's what it was.
Lindbergh's.
Yeah.
They're so
They
cheesy.
so I mean, listen. The only thing about the wave that's cool is that we kind of invented it. So
Did you?
I think the
Did you?
Mets did.
The Mets,
The Mets
did, yeah,
did,
because
yeah.
they
The
had
Met-
nothing.
the Mets, yeah.
The Mets had nothing. We were like, look,
we
our
suck
team
as an
sucks.
organization.
What can we
Yeah.
do
We
to
invented
make
the
up
wave.
for it? I don't know. Distract the people on TV with the wave.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kids like it. What the hell?
So
Kids
we
like
did
it.
that.
I hate it.
Yeah.
I used to love the guy with the signs. He's dead now. The guy used to sit over on the third base side, and he would put up these signs at the stadium.
Shea
So
Stadium.
I have a I know personally. It's
He had a sign for everything. I don't know how he got into the stadium.
we
He
did
had a
it-
mule with him or something to carry them.
we did a yeah right. We did a
Pack mule bringing in his sign.
last year because of COVID.
Yeah.
We did a interview at Rebar
Yeah.
for New York One, and it was essentially about people who haven't missed an opening day in like a really, really long time. The story
Right,
was about,
right.
and now because of COVID, we're missing an opening day.
Yeah.
So the story was about 3 different people, and it was one guy in like Jackson Heights. I think it was Jackson Heights or Astoria.
Yeah.
And then it was the second guy was Nicky the Pin Man Gitamo.
Yeah, he's got like a
He's called the Pin
million
Man.
because he has some
Pin Man.
just
Yeah.
and he
obvious
has
by his name.
pins on
Oh,
all of
I
his
know the
jerseys.
guy. I told you
Jacket,
that. Yeah,
hat,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And he
yeah,
has like
yeah.
all these like little glowing things and
Things,
stuff
yeah.
on his hat.
He missed his nose though. He didn't put one.
He
in
doesn't
his
have pins in his nose. No.
We're trying to get him to do that. Get a rebar pin on his nose.
But Nicky came to the bar, did the interview with, and he's cool as hell. And then it wound up being that he's from the same part of like Middle Village that a couple of my friends are from.
Yeah.
So he knows a lot of these guys. And we went to Florida for spring training, which this is our second or third time going with that group. And we go down to spring training, and and then we went to a bunch of games in spring training, and just missed them. But then went to Baltimore for the recent Baltimore series against the Mets, and he was down there for that. So we're hanging out with him, and like I'm pretty sure like we were on camera just because it's he's a Mr. Pin Man, but
he's a magnet.
It's wild though, because I said to him recently, I go, because they had the black jerseys last week.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
So he had a black jersey with all the pins on.
Oh, jeez.
Right? And because I'm an airhead. Like sometimes my head's in the clouds, and it's not because I'm tall. And I said to him, "Wow, that must be a lot of work, taking all the pins off that one jersey and putting them on the other one, right?" And he goes, "Nah, I got a lot of pins."
Yeah. I got pins on every jersey. On my pajamas.
He goes, I got plenty of jerseys with pins all over.
Yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, what an idiot.
Right, like he's got.
I'm thinking the guy has like 47 pins. And
so you see him for 6 hours.
Every jersey.
For 6 hours, he's taking one pin off.
It's blue jersey night. It's gonna take 4 hours.
He wakes up in the morning.
Let me
8
tell
hours
you though,
later.
so spending time with Nicky the Pin Man, it's an art.
Yeah, it's an art.
Because like if you you put the pins awkwardly or not even, they can pull on the jersey and make it look really like odd. It wouldn't look good. They have to be perfectly placed.
He weighted each one and he measured them.
He's so he's a professional.
How many grams?
He's Nicky the professional pin man. He sounds like he's like a gangster.
Yeah.
But
okay,
so that was.
So question, going back to music for a little bit.
Yeah.
So what's the process when you go into composing a song and you give it and you attach a name to it?
Well, it's a weird thing because I didn't start composing for real until the 90s because I was so busy. I was working 60 hours a week with my full-time job in school. I was teaching private lessons, and I was playing 5 nights a week. I was playing weddings all weekend and everything. I was never home, but I always had music running through my head. And when I stopped the band, and I got out of the band, it was around 2001, I think it was. And I finally could just relax. It was, Kathy jokes about it, but the first Friday and Saturday night I was home, I didn't know what the hell was going on.
Right.
I knew how to guess it. I kept putting my coat on,
like,
but
what do we do now?
What the hell am I
Where are we going?
Where are my keys? You're watching a ball game. I didn't know what to do. Where's my guitar? I didn't know. But it was a straight talk about that for doing it since '65.
Right.
And I just was crazy. I mean, I still play all the time. I play with about 5 different bands, but now I'm relegated to being more of a side man. I still sing, and I play guitar.
Are you retired professionally?
Oh God, no,
you
not
still
at
work?
all. Oh yeah, still playing all the time.
You don't seem
time.
like the retired type.
No, he's playing all the time.
I'm playing all the time. But the only thing that killed me, of course, was COVID. That killed all the musicians worldwide.
I feel so bad for musicians.
And I feel bad. I mean, I retired from schools, and I'm on Social Security too.
Right.
So I have pension and everything. And these poor guys play. This is what they do.
Right.
Right.
When that's your sole income, it's tough.
It's very tough. And these guys are a lot younger. This didn't happen when I had 3 kids to raise.
Right.
This happened later in life.
Right.
Yes. So everybody's raised, everybody's married. So, I was very fortunate that way. So gigs are starting to come back now. This is starting to build up a little bit again,
And what do you play like big? You playing still like these? I know you said you had a Hall of Fame show the other day. Yeah. Are you playing like major concert halls and
what I had, everything was canceled with COVID, and nothing's called back yet. I had about 15 weddings for 2020 that canceled because they just canceled the venues. The venues closed up. They couldn't do this, couldn't do that. They ended up having it in their living room, this kind of stuff.
What's the biggest crowd you played in front of?
Sean Quinn in your living room.
Probably about 30,000.
That's
a couple of times over 30,000.
And what about the most prestigious hall that you played?
Carnegie Hall. Played Carnegie Hall twice. Town Hall about 10 times. Symphony Space in the city.
That's awesome.
That's the.
And you never delved into the fiddle world, like the country thing.
Yeah, I did a couple of bluegrass cruises too, out of Maine.
Oh,
on
did
on
you?
a sailing boat? Yeah.
Wow.
Kathy was with me, and I played the whole 6 days. And we had a concert every night, and we played for about 2 hours with a group from Denver. And the Jerry Mills was the mandolin player. It was all bluegrass, no Irish. And I was he got me, talked to him. He's from New York guy, also from Manhattan. And the Jim Ratz was the guy's name. He was from Denver. And his wife, Sally, was the singer. So it was a 4-piece every night. Oh, no electric.
Right.
On a sailing ship. It was, a schooner.
Right.
A schooner
Right,
cruise.
right.
So people would book a schooner cruise. So I did that a couple of times, 3 times, I think. Right. So it was nice up in Penobscot Bay, up in Maine. It was
very
nice.
cool.
We played it every night.
That's cool.
So it was kind of nice.
Very cool.
But I'm into bluegrass. I've played a lot of bluegrass stuff. I've done a lot of things. I'm a bass player too. I've played bass with a big band, Dick Box Big Band, and that's about a 9-piece with horns and everything playing.
So yes, I was just to say, you're gonna stop him. You're gonna confuse him, and then he's gonna go back and go, wait. It doesn't matter what you say at this moment.
I'm a very immature-minded idiot.
Right, and so he was like, I want to know about this band called Dick Box.
He said Dick Box.
No, Richard Box is his
Right,
name.
but you said, but that's why his mind was like,
He knows me so well.
Oh, God.
Dick Box.
It's just like he just said Dick Box.
I knew it. The minute he said it, I was like,
He was the piano player.
Yeah,
it's
his
just.
band.
I'm sorry.
he was so
I always
distracted by
apologize.
so distracted by it.
I apologize in advance to people for that.
Like he's the guy who giggles at
Well,
farts.
listen,
and
I
other
do.
people
I giggle at
do.
farts. Like
Well, listen,
I still think fart jokes are
Wait a minute.
hilarious.
I got Dick Box number on my phone personally.
Can you imagine
Yeah.
when your phone rings it says Dick Box?
And it
It's
just
like
I say,
the
shit,
greatest
Dick
thing
shit
ever.
now.
Hey,
It will now.
Hey, who was that schmuck making fun of my name? He can't play
great.
piano.
What a
But,
great name.
He had a big band. I used to do all kinds of stuff with him, all society gigs, because I was pretty versatile between guitar, playing bass, and playing classical violin, and playing fiddle, which is classical. I was the violinist in St. Patrick's for about 12 years, St. Patrick's Cathedral.
Wow.
I played all of the stuff there,
And
weddings
that must be
and stuff,
amazing
Christmas Eve,
because of the high ceilings and the acoustics in that place.
It was amazing. It was
Yeah, that's
amazing
gotta be,
experiences,
just to hear that.
Yeah.
So Michael Lynch, a really wild story about our neighbor who died 9/11. He was a fireman. Same namesake, namesake as mine, no relation. He was a fireman there was a fire in the St. Patrick's Cathedral, like in one of the way upstairs. I don't even know what part. So these firemen responded, and Michael was one of the firemen, and they way up in one of the towers or wherever it was, they with the dust wrote their names into the and because he passed on with 9/11, they found his name later on.
Wow, how do you like
and
that?
saw it. And it was like, very surreal, and they told his family, and it was very emotional for them. And but I mean, St. Patrick's Cathedral, so like signs like that, it's like atheists. It's like when you see that, how are you an atheist? Don't believe in something?
Well,
It's
I can tell you a funny story about that. This happened in Whitestone, a couple of blocks from here, earlier this year. A friend of ours passed away. He was a assistant deputy superintendent of police, or whatever the title is, and I went to the wake. I was at the wake, and I didn't know the cardinal was there. The cardinal came in and he spoke and so forth and so on. So on the way out, I'm shaking hands, and I shook hands with him. I said, Your Grace, I guess. Grace, I guess.
I wouldn't even know how to address a cardinal.
I wouldn't either. I was
Your Grace is probably the way to say it. Right?
Yeah. I would say like you bow.
Yeah.
Your Grace. I said I was the violinist in St. Patrick's for about 12 years. And he turns to me and said, yeah, you and Jack Benny. That's what he said to me. That's all he said.
You didn't believe him.
He didn't believe
That's great.
That's what 4 words. Yeah, you and Jack Benny.
That is hilarious. But when you were playing, Dolan wasn't the cardinal, was
No.
It was
this is the
O'Connor back then, right?
Yeah, it was the 80s mostly into the 90s.
Yeah, so Cardinal O'Connor was probably, he was
dead.
from the 70s to the late 90s.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I heard Dolan was a really good dude. I heard he was.
Yeah, it was funny. He starts laughing, but I don't think he
That's
meant to
pretty
be
funny.
sarcastic.
Yeah,
Why would I say that?
Right, of course.
What the hell?
No, he was just breaking your shoes.
why-
which
he
I
was.
think,
Why would I dig that up?
I think that's cool though when you have a cardinal of such a prestigious,
Yeah,
of
he
such
said it.
stature, and he's
right on the
making a
whatever
joke.
street there, 150th Street.
So that's what I didn't
Can't be a
realize.
father of God and have a sense of humor.
Yes, you have
Yeah,
to.
no, I do know people that have encountered him.
I mean, the son of
for,
God.
For various reasons, and they all
Car-
say he was just a
Dolan, yeah.
really good guy.
Yeah.
which is awesome. I mean, you want that.
So he was never there. No, he was still out wherever he came from. This is the 80s and 90s. Yeah.
So going back to when you were playing with Dick Box.
No, Bach, B-O-C-K, Dick Bach.
Bach. Sorry.
Yeah. Jesus.
But see, that's what,
Let me ask you, how old are you guys?
Oh, 12 right now.
you knew it. You knew at some point it was just going to take a turn for the worse.
It was going to take a regression. Yeah, right.
Listen, for the record,
Mike, how do you put up with this?
Don't beat him, join him.
sometimes we look over at Mike and he's just shaking his head with his hand buried in his hands. He looks like a defeated man.
No, I can hear his mind. Here we go with this crap again.
But yeah, so that just in obviously you say you're uncomfortable talking about it. I can imagine because who the hell wants to talk about themselves all day long?
Yeah.
But obviously the purpose of you coming in was to share some of these accolades. But do you you're in the Irish Music Hall of Fame,
right?
Which is obviously speaks for itself. And you're a guy from Queens, and we went over that aspect of it. Do you ever pinch yourself, and you're just like, why me? Like, how the hell did this happen to me?
No, I got Kathy to do that.
She pinches you all the time. Get off the couch!
No, Kathy says, why me?
No, she says, wake up.
Yeah, get out of bed. Yeah.
I mean, because it's if you think about. I recently changed careers.
Yeah.
And, the old adage, like, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life.
That's right, yeah.
And I could tell that you never worked a day in your life.
Yeah.
I could tell that just by the way you talk about your
As
profession.
hard as it was.
Even with the teaching, even being, being an
yeah.
associate professor and all that stuff. I'm sure there was never a time where you were like, I hate what I'm doing,
Never did.
And that,
Always,
to me, is a very... Not many human beings get to do that.
I guess not. I was very fortunate in life, Sean. I really was.
And
I owe it all to my father. He gave me the gift of music, and you asked me earlier in the thing about being left-handed, and he made me play right-handed, and just gave me a career because playing up on stage, doing this and doing that, playing with large groups, or in teaching,
right.
And you're doing it backwards to all these kids.
It
doesn't work.
You're ruining.
You screwed it up.
Right. Right.
So I started guitar when I was 12, and of course I played it right-handed. But I do everything else in my entire life left-handed.
Left-handed.
Everything, but just not my instruments.
Just not,
well,
right.
when you sit down at the piano, how do you play the piano left-handed? You can't. Because the
dominant keys are on the right.
Yeah, the solo keys and the bass keys are on the left.
Right.
Same thing, The trumpet, the different wind instruments and, different ways.
And
trombone.
So in that song earlier, was that the flute that your brother was playing?
Yeah, that was the flute. Yeah, that was the Irish flute.
The Irish flute. That was
the Irish
awesome.
Flute,
It's very. It reminds me of like the Civil War when they were like marching on the battlefield.
Well,
I'm sure it was a similar flute, right? Because a lot of those soldiers were Irish.
They were called fifes back then. Fifes. They were smaller, little fifes that they played. Have you ever seen that famous picture of during the Revolution, and you see the guy with the bandana on his head? He's
yes, yep.
That's a fife.
Okay.
And they still play that too. It's the fife kind of morphed into more like a piccolo.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah,
very good. All right. So now we got about 10 minutes left on some airtime. So I'm going to give you, because this question, I like to ask this question to people. It gives me a good sense of, of who you are. But it's an interesting question, and I won't ambush you with no time left. So it'll give you a couple of minutes to come up with a good answer.
Okay.
If you had three people in life,
right, past,
present, or anybody that doesn't have to be people could be anybody in the history of the world. If you could choose three people to have a roundtable discussion with, which three people would they be?
The first one would be my wife, Kathy. She's my life.
That is an amazing answer.
She's my life.
You definitely want to sleep in the bed
my
tonight.
Soul.
Yeah, he's lucky. He just made his way back into the bed.
Listen, after 2 weeks in the garage, I thought I'd say
That's an.
I want to come home.
You didn't.
I want to come home, honey.
You didn't even hesitate to say, and you didn't say your mama. You said Kathy.
No,
you said my wife, Kathy.
I mean that sincerely.
That's an amazing answer.
I'd say my dad.
Wow, you see, that's the second one, right, Mike?
He made me.
Yeah.
He made me who I am, and I used to sing that song. The whole thing about the father passes on, and the father had made the son. And what really hurts me, these commercials, you don't want to be like your father. And I remember the commercial from years ago. This is not your father's Oldsmobile. Remember
right? Yes.
Yeah. I said, what the hell? My father drove Oldsmobiles.
It was a great Oldsmobile.
And then I got after it, and then I scored.
He gave me a
No.
Oldsmobile. He gave me an F-85. It was a 64, 85, and he bought something else, and he gave me that car for $600.
Love it.
Yeah. So, I paid him off, and the car was worth probably $4,000 at the time. It was a 64, and it was a beautiful car, big 8-cylinder, and everything. It was a great car. So it would be Kathy and definitely my father. And the third person going outside I could pick any of my brothers.
You could pick
Anybody in
anyone.
history.
Anyone
it could
in
be
history.
it could be anybody. It doesn't have to be family. It could be anybody throughout history.
I tell you who it would be. Mozart.
Mozart. See that? I was wondering if it was
Yeah.
going to be a
Yeah.
musician,
Well, a musician would go with music.
I would
but
love
no.
to have met him.
but a
and-
classical musician too. If
Yeah, because a lot of my life has been classical music too. But I always felt bad for him. He died at the age of 35, and
Isn't that insane?
He's the only major composer in the history of mankind. They don't have any idea where he's buried. His wife had to borrow the equivalent of $5 to bury him in a pauper's grave someplace in Austria.
That's
yeah.
disgusting.
That's like,
Yeah.
And he could go down as probably the most revered
Well,
classical
he is. I
musician of
sat
all time.
at a teacher's thing.
More
was
revered
that-
than Beethoven.
Yes. Well, the guy came down from Harvard, and he was judging geniuses. Einstein always,
Right.
and these, whatever the lists are, and Rembrandt, and,
Right.
Michelangelo. Number one, Mozart.
Wow.
Beethoven was on the list, by the way. He was like 5 or 6.
So I mean I can. We had one of Mike's actor friends in here as a guest. I asked him that question. He said his dad was one of the answers as well.
Yeah.
And I really, as a person who didn't have a big father figure in my life, I didn't
Yeah.
really have that influence. That wouldn't even think to come into my mentality.
Yeah.
I find it super fascinating that when you have a really strong father figure in your life,
Yeah, I did.
that the
Yeah.
first two, I like to answer that question. I like to ask that question to people, especially now with the podcast.
Yeah.
But I used to ask that question behind the bar
Yeah.
to get to know somebody.
Yeah, yeah, right,
I think you
right.
can really get to know somebody by asking just that simple
I
question.
guess you would.
Because
Check
you're
it
getting
out.
an idea where the head's at, first of all.
Exactly right.
But the common denominator there is, like you, his father was a major influence in his life.
Yeah.
Like major.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
was doing what he was doing
Yeah.
because his father basically put that in his heart that he could do whatever he wanted.
Yeah.
And he quit his job at really making over $200,000 a year and became an actor
Yeah.
just because he wanted to.
Yeah.
Your father molded your life with music.
He
You
did.
essentially met your wife, started a family. You have children who play music.
Yes.
And it's all because of your dad
All because of my dad.
switching
yeah.
you to the right hand.
Yes.
That's an amazing story.
Yeah. That's
So
that's
I'm glad I
amazing,
asked
yeah.
that question.
So every wedding when they get together, the whole family gets together.
We just
So
did. Mike
so-
was there.
So
One of my nieces got married. Yeah.
there's an old guard of musicians. It's the uncles and the friend. I think it's Brendan, right?
Brendan Dolan. Yeah.
Brendan Dolan.
And John Nolan.
And John Nolan.
yeah.
So they're invited to every single.
I just played with them
one.
the other day. John Nolan was at the
Oh,
Eisenhower Park.
At the Eisenhower
yeah.
Park.
Yeah.
And so they're a part of it. So every time you invite, when you bring the band, that's the band,
band shows
right?
up.
Then there's a second tier of kids that play and still play, and play well, right? And there's a third tier, and some of them are you could see are like hesitant or afraid because you're coming up against, you're like legendary for their family.
You're talking about
what it is.
prestige at this point.
So at the last wedding, led by Tara, their cousin Megan, there's a
And-
bunch of them, and
Brendan.
Brendan, the
Brendan
other
Quinn,
cousin
yeah.
they started to play the music that the old guard was playing, and now the second, and
Yeah.
they were like, wow, you guys are so good. And other cousins were like, hey, what are you playing? I want to play next.
Yeah.
And so they're prepared to move to the next level.
right.
And it's like
So
that's
you're
how it goes.
passing the torch.
Right. And it's the
Yeah.
more you
So
do it
it's
and
more
play it.
it's more beyond than it's more than just the direct family members. It's like
Yeah.
More
spread
than
throughout
that.
the family.
More
Yeah,
than that.
Yeah. Well, on my
Your brothers
on my
and sisters,
CDs,
kids, and-
Chris was been on a couple of my CDs. Tara's been on one, and Heather sang on one too.
Yeah.
Well, she sang one of the songs I wrote. So
Well, I do a
so-
mean Pearl Jam. So if you're ever looking
Yeah,
to do
Pearl
some
Jam.
grunge '90s rock, let me know. I could rock out.
Yeah.
Jeremy spoken.
I just, and
glass
Yeah.
today.
that's
But,
just it. That song is never played, so you have no shot whatsoever.
Never zero.
Zero.
I do a mean Frank Sinatra
But
too. though.
that's,
and Elvis. No, but
It's not really that hard to do. It's like doing William Shatner.
That's not true.
That is so true.
No.
I'm not even a good singer, and I can do Frank Sinatra.
You can't do Frank Sinatra.
I can do Frank Sinatra.
Next time we have karaoke, I want to see you do Frank Sinatra.
I can do Frank Sinatra. Anyway, that's not the point. It's not about me or you, Sean.
My way.
It's a my. It
that's
is
my
my
song.
way.
That's my song. I do.
My way.
I do it. I do.
Easy to do it.
I do.
My
All right. You know what?
way.
Let's have a competition.
Anyway, so
On air.
You're such a competitive prick.
I am.
Hey, Frank, if you're listening, Frank Sinatra, your legacy is safe.
Frank,
Yeah, so safe.
Frankie, baby.
He wasn't. It
I
wasn't.
would never let you down, Frankie,
Yeah.
baby.
Not even the wood.
I'd be a
on your-
perfect Rat Pack member. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I want to be the first to tell you that it was an absolute honor to sit here with you and
Oh, it was great.
absorb your knowledge and the information you had. And I'm sure we could go on for about 10 more hours of this.
We could,
So
because
hopefully
that's
it'll-
why we'll bring him in season 2. We
hopefully,
got another one for
listen, we're going to keep doing this, but hopefully I'll see you, on a personal level. We'll talk more about this.
I
'cause
hope we do.
Fascinating.
I hope we do.
You have
Hope
some
we
really
do,
great
yeah.
stories, and honestly, it's an honor to know you because of all of you, not just what you've done. I mean, in the short time I know you, as far as like
Yeah.
short, I should say in the short interactions that we've had.
Yeah.
Always a very perfect gentleman to me, even though I'm the cursing, yelling, rambling
Oh, you're a good
friend
guy.
of your.
You're a good guy.
Listen, if
your
he can get through me,
son-in-law.
if he can get through me,
I was
you're
gonna,
okay.
See, you didn't finish. I was going to say,
Yeah.
if you absorbed him in your life, then
Yeah.
I'm like cake.
No.
Well, I mean,
No,
he-
but listen, thank you.
Mike's a good guy.
I
And
love
we're
him.
happy
He's
with
like
him.
my brother.
I have
He's-
2 son-in-laws, both Italians, and we're all
And they're
Irish.
good
but
people.
let me tell you something. She treats Tyra like a queen.
Oh, he does. He loves him.
and Matt treats Heather like a queen.
Yeah.
And that's all I care
I'm
about.
I'm honored to know him. I tell him all the time. He
He's a
calls me
good
the
guy.
king of insults, but I only do it with love because I love the guy like a brother. He's like
Don
blood to me.
Rickles. Don
Yeah,
Rickles.
that's
yeah.
who I am. I'm Don Tickles.
Mr. Warm.
Don Tickles. Don Tickles. So as we slowly ease out, we're gonna play one more song from you, and we're gonna just play a little bit of it. And it was like just to get that in there and say, thank you for coming on my show.
Ah, it was great
I
stuff.
really appreciate it. I can't wait to do it again and bring you over. Maybe next time we'll see what goes on with the room, and maybe we get you to play live.
Don't forget to thank him for making Tara.
And then and thank you so much
I
for
had
creating
very little to do with it.
Yeah. just creating your daughter and all that hard work.
You know what? Let's end the show on that. That's amazing.
Anyway, no, thank you for coming on our show and talking and telling some stories. And there's so much more. There's so much more to this guy than what you've heard and everything that comes with him. What an amazing person, family, and everything. So we end out to the Mike and Sean show with one more Sean song before we take our
Another
break.
Sean song, and
Before
not
we
me,
get to
guys,
the-
not me.
Before we get to season 2,
Sean,
this
thank
is
you
the end
very
of
much
season
again.
1.
It
We're
was
taking
my
a break.
pleasure.
It was
My pleasure.
awesome.
Thank
Awesome,
you.
awesome.
So the end of season 2, we leave you with Sean Quinn.
Thank you.
The Fiddler.